You see the final score, we track the revenue stream. Welcome to the show that treats the sports world like the multi-billion-dollar business it is. We dissect the ownership deals, the television right battles, the NIL impact, and the media figures driving the entire narrative. From Wall Street to the locker room, we follow the money and the people who control the message. Welcome to Press Row, the business of sports, right here on the Empty the Bench Network. Now, here's your hosts, Callan and McClurg and Nick Morgasen.
All right, we made it to the penultimate episode of 2025. It is episode 28 already. We're 2 away from hitting 30. As mentioned, the pre-ultimate episode for 2025 here on Press Row, your front row seat to all things sports, business, media, and culture right here on ETV. That, of course, is our good man, Nick Morgasen, all festive. Jets ugly sweater, Yankee Santa hat included. Callan McClurg in San Diego, where it is wet and soggy. Nick, there's a high chance that between San Diego and LA, we're getting 8 inches of rain over the next 3 days.
Oh my God. I mean, we got a snow mix this morning, so what else is new?
So between snow on the East Coast and rain in Southern California, that's where we're at before the holidays. A couple of business items real quick. We invite you, of course, to follow the show. We're now finally on social media. We are at Press Row ETV. And also make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/ETV Network as we close in on 4,000 watch hours. You can also follow us on our social platforms at CalMX Sports and at N Morgasen Radio. Nick, good morning / good afternoon as we get close to the Christmas holiday. A lot of radio shifting is going to be on our talking points today here this afternoon / early evening. But a lot of stories, obviously, with ISN, WFAN. My parents have asked me a lot, though, about the changeover with Odyssey and Infinity Sports. We'll have plenty of that, though. Obviously, big news, though, too, in the NFL. The WNBA, a very sleazy lawsuit finally figured out in Major League Baseball. So we're going a million different directions over the next 3 hours. But as always, man, great to see you. And happy holiday season to you and the family. How are we doing today?
I'm doing good. Last day before Christmas Eve and Christmas Day while we shut the shop for 2 days and kind of enjoy the holidays. But great show. I said to Callan last night, I said, wow, a full show where we're not, for the most part, talking sports business. We are literally getting into the sports media, which is my favorite part of this show. I mean, we're going to talk about, obviously, the now official close pretty much of Infinity Sports Network and the changes that are going on at WFAN, which is in my neck of the woods in New York. And I'm going to have to call out Barrett Sports Media, too, because they wrote a very Jason Barrett, who, by the way, I happen to know. So this is going to be fun also. Decided to write an article about what's the best and the worst way of saying goodbye to the fans, when I didn't realize that there was an exact way to say goodbye to a radio station or a fan base when something goes away. That's like a famous musician or a famous actor or actress saying that you're going to tell them how to leave or when not to leave. Like, that's just one of those things where it makes you say, like, I'll say goodbye how I want. If you don't like it, go kick rocks if you don't like it. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about the Chiefs moving out of Missouri.
We're not going that far.
But that was kind of a long time coming, I feel like. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about FanDuel Sports Networks. If you looked at the title of the show, you'll understand why we're talking about them. So we'll get into them possibly shutting the doors if, was it Main Street Group, I think is the name of it?
Main Street Sports, yeah.
Which I think owns DAZN.
Yes.
If they don't make the deal, they're going to shut the doors. My guess is they're not going to make that deal. We'll get into a long-standing wrongful death lawsuit, which you and I have discussed a lot off air.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about the Skaggs family and the Angels, and this goes all the way back to the drug scandal situation that went down with not just him, but like Matt Harvey and a bunch of other pitchers that were on the Angels. So we'll get into that. Like we said, we'll talk about the radio purge. What else do we have on today's show? We have more radio stuff. Stu Gatz from the Dan Levitard show with Stu Gatz. Is it going to be with Stu Gatz much longer? We'll get into that. We'll talk about the shocker WNBA greed.
Only a couple, and we're only like 2 weeks away now from the lockout hitting.
And from some of the reports, I'm going to see if we can pull that video up of David Sampson, because I thought he said some interesting stuff from the Levitard show, believe it or not.
And actually, he had a couple of very good points, believe it or not.
I don't know if I agree with him saying that the WNBA is going to fold, but we'll get into that, and then we'll do our press clippings, and then one more show for the
year
in 2025. And we'll get into more of what that is later, because that's going to take some time to explain. But let's get into the show, and we are going to get off with a bang, pretty much, right?
We are getting off with a bang. Then this was an announcement that came out early in the morning on Monday. But in a massive and historic shift for the National Football League, the Kansas City Chiefs are officially moving from Missouri to Wyandotte County, Kansas, following the massive rejection of a sales tax extension in Jackson County, Missouri earlier this year back in May. Kansas lawmakers aggressively lured the Super Bowl champs with a massive tax incentive package utilizing what they're calling star bonds. The deal is set to cover about 70% of construction cost, about $1 billion, for a new $3 billion dome stadium and training facility for the Chiefs in Olathe, Kansas. This will end a 50-year run at Arrowhead Stadium and fundamentally reshape the border war between both Missouri and Kansas. Nick, obviously massive news that broke yesterday, though. But though, with Kansas offering to subsidize 70% of the $3 billion stadium through star bonds, does the move signal the end of Missouri's ability to compete for major sports franchises, or a cautionary tale of how public debt is being weaponized to lure private enterprises? Now, quickly, before I give you the floor, Nick, I don't think this is as dramatic as the Chargers going from San Diego to LA. Now, I know that they're going across state lines, though, but they're going from one Kansas City to another Kansas City, which, by the way, already has two other pro sports teams in town in the form of Sporting Kansas City and the Current, who play professional men's and women's soccer, and they have had great fan bases in Kansas since 2009, 2010. So, I mean, I don't know really where this goes, other than the fact that now I wonder about the exodus, because there was talk about the Royals also leaving the Harry Truman complex where both Arrowhead and Kauffman Stadium was built, in Jefferson County. They're both in the same parking lot.
I heard renovations, though, for Kauffman.
I heard massive renovations for Kauffman as well. But this is, though, Nick, a very interesting story where basically the Chiefs are getting a stadium practically paid for by the entire state of Kansas. So your thoughts, though, about how this whole thing is played out? Because if memory serves me correct, though, that vote happened the weekend of my birthday back in May, and it was like a landslide no vote from the Jackson County voters in Missouri.
Well, yeah, because you really think the taxpayers really want to be on the hook for paying for a new stadium? I mean,
hell no.
These owners are greedy. Okay, I'm trying to be nice on the holidays, but greedy F words, if you really want me to be.
Greedy pigs?
Yeah, greedy pigs, because the owners have all this money. Now, if you want to make the sentiment that it's not possible to fully pay for a stadium out of pocket, that's totally fine. But at the same time, we're expecting the taxpayers that might not even make that type of money to pay for a stadium because your greedy ass billion-dollar pockets are not willing to pay for a stadium. We've seen this story many times across many sports, across many venues. Pay for the damn stadium if you want it, and if you can't afford it, then don't get the new stadium.
Yeah, I feel like, Nick, that this is more. And by the way, I just had to relook it up again, and I'm shocked by this. Forbes magazine ranked the world's 50 most valuable sports franchises 5 days ago. The Chiefs were number 22 in the whole world when it came to pro sports valuation.
I would say being in the top 30 is pretty good. I mean, like,
They're worth about $6.2 billion, and they were tied, I think, with the Formula One racing team.
Come on, man. You're worth $6.2 billion and you can't afford a damn stadium out of your pocket?
There's a better one for you from Zan.
Yeah, I agree. He's right. They are Grinches. But this would be like if the Yankees or the Dodgers or imagine if, well, the Yankees did get a new stadium. Now, everyone uses taxpayer funding or not taxpayer funding. Let me back that up. They use government funding or they get tax exemptions is really the answer.
As the case here, they're using star bonds for the new stadium for the Chiefs in Kansas.
But to say that with Kansas City offering subsidies of 70% of $3 billion, does this move signal the end of Missouri's ability to compete for a major sports franchise, or is it cautionary tale? No, it's a cautionary tale of public debt. Of course, that's what it is. This has nothing to do with the ability to compete for a sports franchise.
No.
Because if they really wanted to compete for a sports franchise, they'd pay the money. What do we say? It's all about the what?
It's all about the dollar.
You keep playing that again. It's all about money. So if they really wanted to keep the team in Missouri, they would have found a way. Since Zan is watching, what about what's going on in Chicago?
I was just going to bring that up. Here the Bears are like a century-old franchise. You mean to tell me that they're going to pivot from Chicago, Soldier Field, pivot to Arlington Heights, now pivot to Indiana in like northeast Indiana? Come on now.
Do I have to do it again? I mean, this is about money. This has nothing to do, well, let me take that back. There's a small percentage that has to do with politics. That's part of it. And I'm not talking about like the sporting of politics. I'm talking about politics. This has to do with or money. Because think about, like, take the Washington Nationals.
Yeah.
Okay. Who were the Expos way back when. What happened? They pivoted. They moved. They couldn't survive in Montreal anymore. Now they're in Washington.
Well, let's forget their stopover in Puerto Rico for what, 2 years?
Yeah. And how did that work out? Chicago's living. Well, first of all, I don't like Kevin Warren to begin with because he was the commissioner of which
the Big Ten, I think.
Big Ten conference, right? And people didn't like him, if I remember correctly. Like there's a little bit of an iron fist type commissioner, and then he takes the job as the CEO of the Bears.
Big Ten.
And I think he's done a terrible job running the team. The team is better because they're making better moves as a franchise. Now, I'm not 100% convinced that they're going to go far in the playoffs, but that's a different story for another day. But they've done a much better job rebuilding that franchise. But if you move this to Indiana, how can you call it the Chicago Bears anymore?
No, they would be a different name. They would still be the Bears, probably. I mean, you're talking about moving the founding member of the National Football League in George Halas, the '85 Bears, the Super Bowl Shuffle, Sexy Rexy, Rex Grossman in 2006, like all the lore of that club to Indiana just because of a new stadium deal would make no sense. Now let me pivot though to this other argument though. The reason though why, Nick, I see though the trend now is about the dome stadiums. My longstanding argument. You can't live off NFL revenue because now you want to bid for the CFP. You want to bid now for March Madness, the Final Four, women's college basketball, concerts, other events, so that these markets like Chicago, like you would probably know well, though, in your neck of the woods on the island in New York, you can't really survive the winter months without a dome nowadays. I think that's become the new trend in certain markets. So we're again, I feel like though, the Bears not playing December football at Soldier Field or in a open air stadium would lose like that tradition or that nostalgia. Like I'm glad that Buffalo's not putting a roof on the new Highmark Stadium up there in Orchard Park, New York, up in upstate New York, though. I think though the growing trend though, and I long said this before I came to ETB, is that let's for a minute take the NFL hat off and put it to the side. Where else are you going to get revenue from during the offseason when there's no football? Especially when you're in a market like Chicago, like Indianapolis, or like potentially in Kansas City, Kansas.
What about what they're doing in Cleveland? Remember we talked about that when that they want to put a dome on for the Browns. Do you remember why they wanted to do that?
So they could get more events in the offseason.
March Madness. They want to play March
Madness, the CFP.
That's the revenue you're talking about, though, in the offseason. That's the problem we're having here, which is all these teams are not worried about the NFL product, as scary as that sounds anymore. They're worried about the other parts of the year that they cover. Like they want to put a monster truck event, or they want to bring a big time concert series to their arenas. It's no longer just about football, which in the past, oh, football. Oh, we got to make sure we get the NFL games in. Of course, they're taking them all overseas and they're playing them over there. But I think this is a joke that they want the taxpayers and they want all the funding. Yes, they want big events like concerts and WrestleMania.
I agree more, Christy. You're right.
I forgot about WrestleMania because WrestleMania is now everywhere in every NFL
or even just the WWE PLE, like Survivor Series was in San Diego here in November, and it was like almost 50,000 deep.
The other thing is, if you remember, like when we had the Super Bowl at MetLife, how much of a effing disaster that was because of all the snow. Do you remember all the issues we had, like getting people around MetLife? Like, first of all, they'll never hold the Super Bowl ever in MetLife again.
No, I think that was a one-time thing of like, well, let's see if we can pull it off. But I mean, like you said, I think there was a lot of like transportation problems was a thing I want to say.
And the snow.
And then it was snowing, all that. And I think that game became like, I think that was the 51-10 Seattle beating Denver game, I would say.
I think so, yeah. And why do you think they're holding the game in Arizona or in Santa Clara? Like they are this
New Orleans, Miami, just like the CFP.
They want warm weather states so they could avoid the weather situation. If it rains, they're going to play through the rain as long as it's not lightning or thunder. Like,
of course.
So this is a ridiculous situation. The owners, I'm sure Casey would go crazy if a PLE like the Royal Rumble happened. Well, no, they'll just put it in the new stadium.
Yeah.
But for the taxpayers, first of all, think about it, because the state is going to take a 70% tax hit on paying for the stadium because they know they're going to make the money back from the stadium tax wise. But that's a lot of money to expect the state and the taxpayers to pick up on. That's not right.
Yeah, I think more than anything else is that dome stadiums now in those markets are absolutely needed because of just the weather and the revenue away from the Chiefs games, for example. Now, I wonder, though, Nick, more to kind of go back to that point, though, about Missouri retaining teams. There's been chitter chatter, obviously, that we've talked about. Well, it'll be Seattle and Vegas for the NBA eventually. There's a lot of chitter chatter, pitter patter, get after her, basically, in regarding to if the NHL goes to 34 teams, that Kansas City might be in the market because of the T-Mobile Center that is hardly ever used in downtown Kansas City, Missouri.
No, I don't think the NHL's in the market for more teams, though. That's the problem. Like,
I don't think they are either. I mean, 34 teams would just be like,
obscene
what?
A little bit. Like, the MLB is talking about 2 more teams go to 32.
I mean, they've been talking about that for a long time with the A's going to Vegas eventually in 3 years. And then
they're talking about Nashville, which
Portland.
I don't know if Nashville's really a baseball market, to be quite honest. I don't know if Portland's really a baseball market. Like, can we stop with all these expansion of leagues? Like, I get
if anything, you just may have to relocate teams. Like the damn Rays, sadly, may have to move because of their issues right now with Tropicana Field.
Well, it sounds like they're going to be ready for opening day in 26.
Which is good, yeah.
But I don't know, like the W, which is having issues, which we'll get to later, but just the point I'm making is they want to expand, but they can't freaking agree to a revenue structure for the damn league.
And they're trying to add 5 teams in 5 years, basically, or 3 more teams in 5 years.
See, the one league that doesn't have the issue, the NFL, not trying to expand at all, but they have a revenue structure in place if they wanted to add more teams. First of all, the NFL could add 10 more teams and everyone would still watch it, for crying out loud.
And they would all be in Europe.
Or Canada, or London.
I mean, in Toronto, why not? They can play at Rogers Center, like I said last week.
I mean, if they put a team in London, I know it'd be a traveling nightmare, but at the same time, all of us would watch it for the most part. Yeah. I would say, because it's the NFL. The NFL is king. I hate to say it, but I forgot what they said in the top 100 events. I think they said 10 of them are the NFL. I think every year, including the Super Bowl, is like at the very top.
Yeah.
So anyone who says the NFL is in disaster mode or Like, it's politically incorrect. If it's so politically incorrect, why does everybody watch it?
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, even I know that, and I don't care for the product of the sport, but even I know that that's the iron fist ruler of the American sports fandom.
Why do you think we're talking about the Chiefs' move to Missouri? I mean, out of Missouri,
Kansas, yeah,
Kansas, which, by the way, is really not a move. All these media conglomerates that are saying, "Oh my God, they're moving." They're not moving. They're relocating is really the best way to put it, because it's not like they're going from Kansas City to California for crying out loud. Like, that would be leaving. That would be leaving, or like what happened with Oakland?
The Rams, Chargers, and Raiders all leaving their old markets.
And I like, not to rub the salt in the wound, but when the Chargers left San Diego to go to LA, even though that's technically the same ecosphere, it's still a move.
It still is a move.
That's a move because they literally relocated from San Diego to LA.
Yeah.
Like, and people are, but Callan and Nick, it's still in California. No, but California's a big state.
Thank you for the reminder, Sam Elliott, for all those years of those Dodge commercials.
It's a big state, and that's different.
California is a big state. Go to your local Dodge dealer today.
But like, look at like the one on my ugly sweater here, like with the Jets.
They play in Jersey.
Like, to be honest, they shouldn't be called the New York Jets or the New York Giants. The only true New York team is what in football?
The Buffalo Bills. And
I will stand on that. I don't care if people hit me up in the comments and say your sweater looks ugly and maybe you should root for a different team. I probably should, but I'm too much of a Jet fan to let it go. But I'm not happy about this, but it's the business of football.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And in that retrospect, San Diego and LA aren't the same. Just because they're close on the map, don't tell me that we're the same thing, because people down here don't like LA sports.
That would be like saying to me, like, New York and I'm trying to think of an example. Like, New York, Boston, and Connecticut are the same because they're in the tri-state area.
No.
Like, I hear that all the time. I'm like, no.
You really think the Yankees want to get grouped in with the Red Sox, or the Padres going to be grouped in with the Dodgers? Absolutely not. No, thank you.
What was that ridiculous thing that Manfred wanted to do? He wanted to put the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Mets,
and the Phillies all in one division.
You realize the Mets would get spanked out of that division, like, in a worst way possible, especially the way they're going right now.
And I think it was Padres, Dodgers, Angels, Diamondbacks for our division.
The Angels would get, you suck, you jackass. You get kicked across the room, like,
exactly.
All right, let's move on here.
This one though is yikes. They're like on the fringe of this, perhaps going down the tubes here.
Yeah. So FanDuel Sports is FanDuel Sports Networks. Now, let me be very clear, because there is a difference between FanDuel Sports and FanDuel Sports Networks.
These are the regional sports networks that was once Fox Sports and Bally, and now FDN or FDSN.
Correct. So, excuse me. The regional sports networks landscape, I'm getting choked up reading the story, is facing its final reckoning. Main Street Sports Group, which is the owner of DAZN and the owner of the rebranded FanDuel Sports Networks, has reportedly missed a critical rights payment to the St. Louis Cardinals. And if I'm not mistaken, that's not the only one they've missed. Industry reports suggest that the company will shutter and dissolve its operations after the current NBA and NHL seasons, unless a sale to the streaming platform DAZN closes by January. If the deal fails, the broadcast rights for 30 professional teams across MLB, NBA, and NHL would revert to the leagues, forcing teams to find emergency local distribution, or move entirely to streaming. If the DAZN deal falls through and FanDuel Sports Network dissolves mid-season, will the sudden collapse of the local linear TV force a permanent and painful transition to a streaming-only model that many fans are still not prepared for? No.
No. Can we just already dig the grave for all the RSNs at this rate? Because, we talked yesterday afternoon, Nick, prepping for the show. Look at where baseball's at. Padres, Diamondbacks, Rockies, Mariners, Cleveland, the Reds all have gone to the Padres.tv, MLB.tv broadcast feed. We heard reports that the NBA is ready to basically do the same thing with NBA League Pass for select teams who might be facing that uphill climb as well. I don't see where this is. I don't see how this gets anywhere at this rate, Nick, with how I think that every league right now will have to probably follow the NFL model, where it's going to have to be like a national in a way, but probably like how baseball's done it, where you have the stream, MLB.TV stream, and somehow get it on cable. I mean, but then again, I don't really know, though, where this is going to go, because I don't really know, Nick, if DAZN really is that much of a big brand. Like, I know that they're big on boxing. They had like a baseball show, and I think they have the international NHL rights for overseas markets, but
they brought Kellerman in to do his boxing show over there.
They did.
I think I said
I don't see this going anywhere, sadly.
I said this to you yesterday, that regional sports networks are dead. They're pretty much dead unless you're the Yankees. Like, so New York, Boston, Los Angeles,
LA,
Philadelphia, Chicago. Unless you're one of those big markets that has a huge local regional following, the rest of the networks, that's Cal, who was over on our playback side. But I just don't see, unless you're a major market, how are you surviving as a regional sports network? Actually, Cal's a perfect example, because Cal is in Seattle.
Yeah.
Look what happened to Root Sports Network in Seattle.
Bada bing, bada boom.
And I know why the Mariners did it, because they know there's no money in it. When you could be on a national platform and you get a percentage of the revenue rather than fighting and have to pay all the money out of your pocket. Now, I think this could be good for some fans in some way, because more people have national networks than they necessarily do to gain local permissions to watch certain things. Now, this is going to cause an issue for streaming's sake.
Agreed.
Because how are you going to fit every game as a national game? You just could not do it. There's not enough time, day and time, to do it unless you're going to do the NFL model, where you carve out a national window for 1 p.m. Eastern, and then 4 p.m. Eastern, and maybe 7 p.m. Eastern. That's the only way you're going to be able to carve out if you're going to do a national window for most of these sports. Otherwise, This is a problem.
Yeah, I think this is a major problem, especially when right now you're trying to survive right now. If you're FanDuel Sports Network, SoCal and West out here, you're trying to survive on the Clippers and the LA Kings right now as your two main saving graces. That's all you got right now. You've got all the national shows like Golic and Golic, but you're surviving on a very much mediocre Clipper basketball team right now, and a scuffling up and down hot and cold LA Kings hockey team right now as your main two anchors on your two platforms. Not good.
Right, because the Lakers have their own local distribution. Was it through
the Dodgers
Time Warner?
too?
Was it Time Warner, or what is it now?
Spectrum Sportsnet.
Or Spectrum Sportsnet. Used to be Time Warner.
Yes.
But the Lakers are going to survive because the Lakers are the brand of Los Angeles. I hate to say it, but they are.
17 rings.
17 rings. The Yankees in New York. The Yes Network will be around for as long as the Yankees are.
Say the line, Nick.
The Yankees Entertainment and Sports Network.
No, say the line, Nick.
Which one?
How many rings?
Oh, 27.
Yeah, gotcha.
What?
No, I wanted to say the line. Oh, yeah, I'm a Yankee fan. We got 27 rings.
I'm a Yankee fan. I got 27 rings.
There we go.
Got it. But I'm not like a certain someone who's not here anymore who has to gloat about his championship titles. But
yeah, well, you're actually a Yankee fan who's actually a realist and not one who lives in the Stone Ages.
I mean, I wish my owner would spend a little more money to fix the damn team. Well, actually, both New York teams are acting like Mr. Krabs lately, not willing.
Especially the blue and orange team.
But I don't think FanDuel is going to survive. Like, what incentive does Main Street Group or DAZN, either or, have? What value is it to them to own these regional sports networks? Because they're not working. How many times have we seen them transfer these RSNs?
I feel like it's been ever since the last 2 to 3 years that they've been changing the rights. Like, I mean, I remember watching the last Padre game on Bally Sports San Diego, and then it literally, when the game ended and they did the post game show, it literally flashed up a screen saying, due to contractual obligations, or like whatever, unforeseen contractual obligations not being fulfilled. Bally Sports San Diego has ceased operations. You can find the games on whatever the platform is going to be. And I mean, me and my folks have cable still, so the games are still put on cable TV in San Diego, and then like 10 games are on our CBS station here during the course of last season. Now, of course, that'll be interesting next year, with this whole ESPN regional thing that they're supposed to be doing.
It's interesting you bring that up. I wasn't going to bring this up now, but that story I shared with you because of FanDuel Sports Networks going down, they're saying ESPN might benefit from those regional sports networks going down. And you know what? I actually agree with awful announcing.
I think they're right.
Because what happens now? More RSNs are out. Where are the games going to go?
National.
Streaming.
Oh,
forget national, but streaming. And who just made a huge deal for streaming the games? ESPN. And you know what? Like, there's something that really comes to mind when I think of these RSNs and the way that the prices are like going like up. It makes me think of this. Like, yeah, it literally, like, the prices should just keep going up on the RSNs to the point where these networks are going to say, oh, smash. Like, they're going to fall off the side of the mountain because the prices are so damn high for these RSNs. What do you think these networks are saying, or these teams are saying? Sorry, not paying that. Why would I pay? Seattle, or I don't know if it was the Mariners or if it was Root that officially pulled the plug.
I think Cal might be able to let us know. I think it was Root who pulled the plug, I want to say. It may have been the ball club, or it could have been a mutual parting of ways.
Actually, no, it probably had to be Root because Seattle was getting paid by Root, I would think.
They were, but it was weird, though, and I think Cal could probably agree or can confirm this. They were under the Root umbrella, but they had like the Padres.TV style MLB.TV provided graphics with like the score bug and the replay transitions and graphics. It was so weird. It was odd.
If they own the content.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
I think it was. Yeah. No, that makes total sense because Root has to pay the fees to air if they want the Mariner games. I can't think of any other network that really would have aired them. To be honest, I don't.
Maybe King and Kong TV up there, which is I think the NBC affiliates up there. I want to say.
Yeah, but this is we're finally seeing NBC baseball for the first time in
like what 40 years roughly.
And I'm still curious to see if that's actually going to work. To be honest, they had the games on MLB TV, but they also played on Root. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
It didn't.
It almost sounds like they were combining the two efforts in a sense, or maybe Major League Baseball was helping behind the scenes.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me with how baseball had to bail out, San Diego, the Diamondbacks, Cleveland, and Cincinnati, and then the Rockies as well were a part of it.
But the weird thing is they're keeping the broadcast crews of whoever the local affiliate TV networks were.
Yeah.
But I don't know. These gambling networks.
Yeah.
So do you remember when we talked about DraftKings Network and we talked about FanDuel Sports Network or FanDuel Sports TV, whatever they're calling it? And they brought on all these big time personalities and they paid them millions of dollars. If you remember when the Golics were doing a show on DraftKings Network and now over at FanDuel TV, that's when they had millions of dollars in money. They're spending all this money thinking they're going to get people to gamble. That's just not how this world works. Like, and now I think Stan Verrett, who we had on this show, he's also doing a national show, right? I think on FanDuel.
Yes.
While also doing the Clippers coverage, while also doing, I think he's doing New Orleans Saints stuff remotely also. I don't see this surviving. I really don't see this surviving. Who's going to want the RSNs? If you can answer me that question, then maybe I'll believe that someone will take it.
I don't think anyone's going to want it. I'm just kind of looking around to see what else that there has been. Baltimore and Washington do in fact have. Masson is back for another year,
but there's a caveat to that. Do you remember there was a huge legal battle between the two teams? Because who was it? It's the Orioles, right?
Baltimore,
that technically owned the network, but they were sharing the bandwidth, so to speak. So they had a fight over whose games were considered more important, which that didn't make more sense. That was like when the Yankees and the Mets. Do you remember they were sharing Pixel
WPIX?
How did that make any sense in New York?
Yeah.
And also, what happens when the Yankees were playing the Mets? How do you do that?
Yeah. How do you do that?
Are you going to combine like the play-by-play efforts between Gary Cohen and Michael Kay and all that stuff? I'll give you another example. When the Yankees play the Giants on Netflix opening day, who's calling the game?
Oh, that is a good point.
Are you going to get Michael Kay to do the game for Netflix? Which network? Like how the NFL has they basically contractualize efforts for Iron Eagle and Noah to do the two games because they both technically work for CBS to do the games for Christmas. But who the hell is going to call the game for Netflix? Unless you're going to run alternative feeds.
Yeah.
I don't know. I long story short, I don't see FanDuel Sports Network lasting. And it doesn't make sense for Main Street Group, which owns DAZN. What are you going to do with the RSNs? Everyone else has failed with them since.
There's no clear path forward. It might just be time to shut down operation of it, sadly.
I don't know. Get ready for a special holiday treat. ETB Small Market Edition Episode 5 drops this Friday, December 26th at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Callan explores the small market soundtrack, detailing how a simple hashtag connected him to DJ Shawn and Nichols of the Milwaukee Bucks. It's the story of championships, the COVID bubble, and the grind of a sports PA announcer and an NBA DJ wherever you get your podcasts. So please check it out. We have a ton of episodes in the pipeline already done through the holiday season. So please go check out ETB Small Market Edition, along with some of the other stuff we're working on, including benchmarks, which we are through March almost already?
Practically through February already, if you can believe that.
So tune into all of that and check that out. Cal also has a comment here. I still don't understand why every sport has to play on Christmas. Christmas is not a day of sports. It's a day of gifts, family, food, and faith. Maybe one game for each sport, but not thousands. I mean,
I can kind of get behind that a little bit. But
I don't know if it's thousands, but I know where you're coming from, Cal.
Yeah.
I think the reason they play on Christmas is because people are sitting in front of their TV a lot during the holidays. So what are you going to do? If you're a sports fan, you're going to watch sports. I mean, the NFL, by the way, got a huge FU with all the injuries, which I'm kind of laughing about now because now they're not going to get their big holiday payoff with their big matchup. Mahomes is out injured. I think some others have backups playing also, if I'm not mistaken. But does anyone really want to see Eagles Bills? They're both in the playoffs. It's just a seeding play, so the games mean nothing.
I mean, the fact too that the Chiefs are a almost 2-touchdown dog at home though against Denver with a third-string quarterback or a guy off the street, that was like mind-boggling too.
Yeah, that game's going to be trash. I mean, this is the NFL being greedy on Christmas. That is true. I'll be watching NFL games, but it's still crazy. No, you're right. You're right. But I think this is just true greed. And speaking of greed...
Oh, speaking of greed, let's go to the WNBA, Nick. The WNBA's relocation rumors have turned into concrete negotiations. The long-standing story, though, about the Connecticut Sun, that, again, we talked about earlier this season, Nick, that there was talk of them maybe going to Hartford or Boston. That, of course, got shut down by our favorite commissioner, sarcasm noted.
If we keep
they are now
right
in substantive talks to be sold and moved to Houston. led by Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta, despite significant bids to keep the team in New England, including a $325 million offer from the Celtics to keep the team in Hartford or Boston. The Morgasen tribe is reportedly favoring the move to Houston, Texas. This would bring back a franchise to Houston for the first time since 2008 when the Comets folded operation and will leave New England without its only major pro women's sports franchise, despite the fact that there is going to be an NWSL team going there next season. Nick, by prioritizing a move, though, to an NBA-backed market like Houston over established and passionate New England bids, including one from the Celtics, is the league chasing corporate stability at the expense of loyal existing fan bases that once helped the league out, in your opinion?
As Christy said, WNBA basketball back in Houston. Holy shit. So you and I we've been discussing a lot about the WNBA as of late. This really has nothing to do with corporate stability. If they really wanted corporate stability, they would move this to Boston. Or
they would have kept this thing regionalized and not jump the gun and go back to a market like Houston and just give them a brand new franchise, as they should have done beforehand.
Right. If they really wanted to make it work, they would have made it work in New England. They would have found a way. They're in the middle of a casino. That probably does not help them. Probably.
They're in suburban Hartford, which is in Unkinsville, I believe, is where they play their games.
But don't they play in? Isn't the casino attached to the arena?
Yeah, and they're on tribal land, like in southeast Connecticut, I believe, if memory serves me correctly.
But playing attached to a casino just sounds like a nightmare waiting to happen. Like, so I get why they're trying to move.
I mean, we have a minor league hockey team in our division who plays games attached to a hotel and convention center in Bakersfield.
That doesn't make any sense either. I mean, they got to move, though, because they were never going to survive in Connecticut. There's really nothing else in the surrounding area professionally. And don't give me this tri-state nonsense with New York and Boston, excuse me, or Philadelphia. I don't want to hear any of that nonsense. They needed to move. Now, we've talked about the politics of this move for how long now? It seems like too long.
I feel like the story, Nick, broke during the middle of the season that there was the stove was getting hot about the Celtics minority owner wanting to buy the club and move them to either TD Garden or to Hartford at the XL Center. And it got shot down within a day by the league front office of like, no, we have a process about this. We can't just, let someone buy the team and move them without, a vote of the board of governors, and Kathy has to get involved with it. It's like, well, someone's trying their hardest to keep the club and the team in town and move them to a better location, get them off tribal land and put them at TD Garden, where again, the Sun had played there a couple of games, like, one-off games. They were sold out usually because people like the product. And then, Hartford obviously is, I think that they, in a way, they're not what they once were when they had the Whalers back in the day before they left for Carolina. But still, like, at least keep it regionalized, though, within the confines of Connecticut, or go to Boston, what have you, whatnot. But I think, though, that when a owner, though, like the Celtics wanted to keep the team, you should have listened to the offer and not have your way or the highway where it's, oh, we got to get back to Houston. You should have just given Houston a new expansion franchise and not move an existing team out of their market.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's that it's politicking, again, which I mentioned earlier, that Kathy needs to stop politicking as the commissioner in charge of the WNBA and say, look, whatever the best offer is, it should go to the best offer. It shouldn't matter where you want the team. I'm rejecting where you go. I'm rejecting this. That's not your job as the commissioner of the sport. Your job is to, okay, if the team sells, that let's figure it out. If they're going to go to Houston, fine. Let's make it work in Houston. You'll go play, I forgot the name of the arena.
Toyota Center.
Toyota Center?
Toyota Center.
Which is a nice place, by the way, from what I understand.
And oh, by the way, the Houston Comet banners are still up in that arena, though they've been gone for nearly 2 decades.
Well, because those were titles. I mean,
and retired numbers too.
Now, my question would be, and I think you know what my question is going to be, if they were to go back to Houston.
If they take the name, do they get to retain the history of the franchise? I would think so.
Well, I'm saying, would they take the name back on?
I don't see why they wouldn't.
Because you can't be the Connecticut Sun in Houston.
Or the Houston Sun. That would make no sense.
I think
they were literally named after the Mohegan Sun tribe. I think that would be out the door when they go to Houston.
Can you imagine if the Houston Comets came back?
I would be all for it.
If you go to Houston, you
would be bringing back the OG dynasty. 4 straight titles.
I was going to say they won 4 straight titles. Right. If you go back to Houston, you got to bring the Houston Comets back. Now, will there be the market and the fan base in Houston? That was part of the problem, and that's why they folded, right? Like,
they mainly folded, much like a lot of the other teams who did after 06 when the NBA did this to the dual ownerships. And they were one of the teams that suffered the worst.
Yeah, but now they're back. But now you see dual ownership again, though. So what changed?
Don't know.
So we're politicking again is basically what you're telling me. That
pretty much.
Because if you look at every NBA owner, for the most part, owns a WNBA team counterpart in their state.
Pretty much.
I can't think of. I'm trying to think who doesn't. Who are the ones that don't?
Atlanta, Chicago, Seattle, and Dallas.
Well, right, because Seattle doesn't exist in the NBA right now. But I'm wondering if the NBA ownership would get behind the W if Seattle came.
I don't see why they wouldn't.
So I don't know. If they go to Houston, they got to be the Houston Comets again.
I mean, I think we're all in. I mean, Christy agrees.
Yeah, comments make more sense to me. Can you imagine the amount of nostalgia they could do again if that were?
I mean, they could go back to the old school floor. They could go back to the old uniforms. I mean, you've got. It's almost like on a silver platter. Just don't trip over your feet and spill the chili when you first enter the room. Like it's literally right there for the taking when if this actually happens. But I do feel bad though for the Sun fan base though, Nick. Despite the fact of how the last couple years have gone, I think I kind of read the tea leaves a little bit, though. When they made a lot of those trades, it felt like something was up. Like they dealt Alyssa Thomas and DAZN Carrington and Marina Mabry got dealt, and then she got reacquired. Like, so they're trying to sabotage the franchise in a way for them to maybe pull a Dean Spanos. Hey, our team sucks. We got to move.
It's money.
It is.
It's money in politicking. That's why, think about it, because you said they were named after the Mohegan tribe for the Connecticut Sun. They can't be the Sun anymore because of all the politicking involved. So,
I mean, more importantly, you go back to comments, you realign with Space City USA, Astros, Rockets, Comets. There you go.
Well, isn't there a network in Houston? I forgot the name.
The Space City Home Network for the Astros and Rockets. Yeah.
So it would fit right in, right? I mean, digitally, I think they would be great again now that they could do some social media digital. Imagine the Houston Comets accounts being back up and running. You could do like large space intros at the beginning of games. Like you could have like drones like flying across the Houston franchise should reach out to me. I have some good ideas. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. And I hope they become the Houston Comets again. I think it'd be a great story for the W. Well,
it's literally right here. Just don't do this.
Well, the problem is there would have to be a W to do that stuff.
As we'll get to later. Nick, switching gears back to Major League Baseball. Finally, we reached the end of the road, though, but the Los Angeles Angels and the family of late pitcher Tyler Skaggs have finally reached a confidential settlement an hour before the jury's verdict was to be read on Friday, ending the lengthy, sleazy, and ugly civic trial in a Santa Ana courtroom. Tyler's family alleged the team was negligent in allowing former communications director Eric Kay to distribute opioids and drugs and pills to players. The trial further exposed dark details of drug use within the clubhouse and sparred over Skaggs' potential career earnings, which experts did believe and valued him to be, which experts believed to be between $32 and $101 million. The settlement will also provide finality, but leaves a lasting stain on the organization's oversight during Tyler's time with the franchise. And also, Nick, a exit poll of the jury members in Santa Ana does believe, though, that they found the Angels 55% liable in his death, while 15% of the jury found Skaggs responsible for his addiction and the amount of alcohol in his system. Nick, in your mind, though, what does this say, though, about the ongoing issue that happened?
That's absurd. It's absurd. It's absurd that they're saying that the Angels are only a little more than half liable for Skaggs' death. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't know how to feel about this currently. I'm forgetting the guy's name at the moment. Oh, Eric K. That's right. I remember when this story happened, and Eric K is the biggest asshole of all time. How he managed to get all these opioids and distribute it to a system for players he could have killed. Well, he did kill somebody, but like could have killed more people in this regard. Like, first of all, how did he get access to all these opioids?
Right.
That's what I'm not understanding. But to say the Angels are only 55% liable, and then on top of it, to compound it with that Skaggs is 15% responsible. Now, let's not be completely naive and say that Skaggs was not drinking or
he had been underneath the influence, and the intake of alcohol is what also played a role in his death, along with the pill that he did take.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, he had injuries and was coming off.
I think he had Tommy John at least once, maybe twice when he was with Arizona.
So people are saying, like, did he have an addiction based off
the injury factor?
Well, the opioid crisis after you have a surgery. Like, because remember, I don't know if you've ever had a surgery before, but like,
thankfully, no.
My dad, who's had 25 surgeries, had to take I forgot which one it is. The pain, which opioid is it that they give to everybody all the time?
Oxycodone?
Yeah, that's it. You know what they tell you? I'm sure you've heard this generally. When you take oxycodone, what do they tell you have to be aware of?
The side effects.
Well, it's addictive qualities.
Yeah.
So my dad's doctor had watch on him just in case, even at home, to say, hey, how are you doing? Like, please be careful with this stuff. This is dangerous stuff. And only take it if needed, because it stays in your system for a period of time when you use it. So, but this guy was bad news. Eric K was a terrible, awful human being that basically was taking advantage of the system, being in a professional sport, which led to a wrongful death. Again, I'm going to reiterate this so we don't get stupid idiots in the comments who don't understand this. Tyler Skaggs had a drinking problem and an addiction problem to boot. But at the same time, why was Eric K distributing drugs to current pitchers and current players on the roster?
Nick, I'm going to probably examine this a little bit more from the perspective of a fan of the franchise. They've been my American League franchise for as long as I've been alive. I happened to work a game for them as their in-stadium announcer 3 years ago in July of 2022. And I look at it more, though, Nick, not for the fact of, like, the franchise as a whole, though, again, winning the World Series and how they did in 2002. I look at it more, though, about how this club might be the most cursed franchise when it comes to deaths of players, front office members, coaches, you name it. You know, I think about Lyman Bostock, who was killed during the All-Star break, I think, when he went home to Indiana. It was a case of mistaken identity. He was shot and killed at a stoplight. So there's that. I think about Donnie Moore, who was their closer for a long time, because of one home run he gave up in the 86 ALCS to Dave Henderson against Boston. He killed himself a couple years later because he kept getting booed whenever he came out after that game ended or after that series came to an end. Then there's obviously Nick Adenhart when he was killed after his debut in 2009, hours after he threw the best game of his life. You know, there's Preston Gomez, who was a legendary scout who died from natural causes. The team bus crash in New York in the 90s where, you know, players were injured. Buck Rogers got sent through the windshield of the damn bus, and one of them toppled over and was laying on its side in against, you know, very thin trees. You know, it's a franchise, Nick, along with Tyler's death, that is just marred, though, by black cloud after black cloud. And really, I think, though, Nick, almost feels like it's the straw that breaks the camel's back of this very ugly chapter of Artie Moreno's tenure as owner of this franchise, too.
So I just wanted to look this up because I want to make sure I get it right. So Eric K got a 22-year
federal prison sentence. Yes.
So he was convicted for providing fentanyl-laced pills that led to the 2019 overdose of Tyler Skaggs. But people don't realize fentanyl is probably the biggest killer, drug-wise, of people. Now you're saying, Nick, how do you know that? Because I've been watching these documentaries of where they go into airports, they follow the security or the TSA inside the airports, and they're trying to catch people.
Oh, contraband. Yeah, on Discovery.
Yes. And I don't know, for some reason, I'm just like fascinated in watching how people like hide and sneak contraband through airports, or like when they're crossing the border and they try to hide it under the seat cushions and in ways that they think drug sniffing dogs are not going to find it. Like, fentanyl is the most dangerous thing you can get your hands on. And when they go to test this stuff, when they use that thing to see if it changes color, they literally have to wear a mask, like a COVID mask, in a sense.
PPE.
Right. And they have to cover their hands because a single touch could kill you. So think about Eric K, who was distributing these drugs to these guys, knowing, or he's going to say I didn't know, but knowing he was going to kill people with fentanyl-laced drugs. Think about that. I've also watched, yes, that's right, To Catch a Smuggler. Yes. I think it was on National Geographic, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But it's scary.
It is.
What people will do to get by in life.
Yeah, I remember, Nick, when I was dating my girlfriend at the time. She's originally from San Antonio, and she would tell me those, like, not horror stories, but like the actual stories about when she would drive to see her folks over the Christmas holiday or the holidays, when she would, drive from here to San Antonio. Phoenix is known for their immigration enforcement when you come into Phoenix.
It's right near the border.
Yeah, right near the border. And then New Mexico is one thing. But then, though, you go through Texas, you go through El Paso, you go through McAllen, you go through all these, notable places.
That's literally near the border. Texas is like the dividing line.
Yeah, it literally is. And, the stories about how it takes hours on end. It doesn't matter what time you get there. You're stuck hours on end getting through those lines because fentanyl is coming across from Juarez or from Mexico as a whole into the state that way.
And people will do anything,
whatever it takes.
Some of the hiding places are insane that they go to.
And before we get to the top of the hour here and get to hour two of the show today is, Nick, I want to applaud Sam Blum, who we know well was kicked off the Angel radio station for his open honesty about the ball club, and the team said he was being too harsh about where the team was going. Sam Blum covered that story for The Athletic from day one to the very end. And I mean, he had every receipt you can think of about how Kay would be making drug deals in the office, in the press box, in the ballpark parking lot. There was a story about him having, because he was also bipolar, he had a weird episode when he was, working high on drugs at your home ballpark in the Bronx. He ripped his shirt off and was acting like a freaking maniac, in the press box when you're supposed to be, as we know about how it's supposed to be. So there was a lot more to the story, though, than, obviously the testimony of like CJ Crone, Matt Harvey, Mike Morin, guys who were teammates who, I think Mike Trout had to even go on the stand, though, and he was a broken man talking about what had gone on with, Eric and with,
he couldn't stand trial.
Yeah, it was impossible, and then, John Carpino, was the last guy to, John Carpino, the team president, was the last guy to speak. And then obviously, Carly, Tyler's widow, and then, Tyler's mom, and, Tim Mead, who was, the guy in charge, even said, yes, I faulted Eric, I faulted the franchise, what have you. But I think, Nick, I'm a bit more shocked they would settle right before the verdict comes out. But I still think, Nick, and I think that there's reports, though, the Skaggs family's told baseball, you better pursue your own investigation and do something with this organization.
I'll tell you why they settled. Do you want the real reason why they settled? Because most people are going to say, oh, well, it was they were trying to do the right thing. No, it's not that the Angels were trying to do the right thing. They wanted to get the PR monkey off their back when it came to Major League Baseball. The Major League Baseball didn't want to deal with the PR nightmare that this was going to cause, or the garbage that was going to come down the peak if they didn't settle, and they ended up taking this to a long case.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
So, looks like we have more baseball deals coming along the peak too. But yeah, the Angels didn't want to take it. Yeah, duh, of course, because they didn't want to pay the hundreds of millions of dollars that were going to come from Eric Kay's mistake. First of all, I don't know why Eric Kay's not the one on the hook for a lot of this situation when it comes to, because he was the one that gave the fentanyl pills. But why are I get why the Angels are on the hook. I get why the Angels are, because it was done under their watch. But at the same time, Eric Kay, the one serving the 22-year jail sentence, is the one that really caused the problem. And that's the issue. Like, when you work for a franchise, like, you have to be careful with the people you hire. Right?
Cannot agree more.
Because if you hire the wrong person, they take down your franchise like that. So I don't know really how to, but to say the Angels are only 55, well, according to the poll of the jury states that they only found the Angels 55% liable, is laughable. It happened under the Angels' watch. The stuff was done in Eric Kay's office inside of Angel Stadium.
And they kept letting him come back to work.
So how can the Angels only be 55% liable if he was dispersing drugs inside his office at Angel Stadium?
I feel like, Nick, though, and we'll get to hour two here in a second, but I do think baseball, if they investigate, they're going to find more dirt, and I think that they are going to punish the franchise in some capacity. I really think so.
But how? Because is there a statute of limitations at some point?
There will be probably the stupid, fine, forfeiture of future draft picks.
Yeah, guess what? You know what the biggest fine in Major League Baseball is?
Like
$5 million.
$5 million, and it's chump change to any owner out there in the league.
And who gives a shit about draft picks in baseball? No one. You don't build through draft picks in Major League Baseball.
Not at all.
So what? Tell me where the punishment is. I mean, could you postseason ban them? That's never been done before. But the Angels are not going to make the postseason, right?
No, unless they actually force Artie to sell the franchise.
I mean, could you pull a situation like what happened with the Clippers? Because of like a terrible situation where you basically...
That could be intriguing about that because, yeah, the Sterling thing was ugly because it was racial remarks about two former, about Magic Johnson or former players. But could you imagine, though, and we will get to hour two here in a minute, though, but imagine that if baseball investigates and then find the Angels liable for Tyler's death.
Well, 55% apparently they already have.
Well, that was the jury who was polled that said that that's where they felt along the lines. And I think that even if they didn't, that if the verdict would have been read from what I heard from other sources.
Were you surprised that was made public?
What was that?
Were you surprised that percentage was made public?
Well, I don't know if it was really public. It came to the grapevine via a few SoCal sports media hosts down here.
Well, were you surprised in general that a percentage was?
I was a little surprised, but to wrap up this topic that was that. Imagine that we go from the Sterling thing about the tapes and the racial remarks about Magic Johnson and Elgin Baylor to now we have an owner get forced out because his franchise practically murdered a player in a way.
And I think that's worse than what happened to Donald Sterling with the Clippers.
No, it would be.
I mean, you had Donald Sterling who was abusing a woman And then on top of that, treating everybody poorly as the Clippers owner. And I think the owners had to vote him out technically, right? Was that the was that the scenario involved that got rid of Donald Sterling? I think it was.
I think so.
So if they determine that the Angels and Artie Moreno and the ownership of the Angels is responsible for the death of Tyler Skaggs, which is what... Now, let's be very clear about something else. And I promise this is the last point and we'll move on. If you're settling, doesn't that mean you're admitting guilt in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, you would think if you're settling it, it's like, well, we want this dismissed. I mean, the Angels, they were fighting so hard about certain people to testify, testimony, and evidence, and they kept getting thrown out. It's like, in a way, you're admitting defeat, though, when you keep doing that.
All right, we'll leave this one here because we could talk 3 hours about this. But all right, let's move on to hour 2. This is the hour I've been looking forward to.
Dun, dun, dun.
So we've talked about this for quite a bit. Now it's becoming reality because this is the official last week of the Infinity Sports Network, which used to be CBS Sports Radio, which is a national sports network. It's now the demoralizing end. Odyssey has officially pulled the plug on the Infinity Sports Network, ending a major chapter in national sports talk radio. Longtime host Damon Amendolara, or DA, he's known, has been vocal about the closure, calling the sudden end of the platform, quote, demoralizing for the staff who worked to build the brand. The move comes as Odyssey continues to navigate financial restructuring, leaving several national shows without a home and signaling a massive contraction in the national radio syndication market. Is the demoralizing end of the Infinity Sports Network a sign that national sports talk radio is a dying format, or is it simply a casualty of a poor corporate management and a failure to adapt to a podcast-first world? Thoughts?
I mean, all we're getting now is more sports gambling crap on the radio now all of a sudden.
I think this was handled so poorly. I
could not agree more that this was a botched operation when it happened, and a lot of good people that were on ISN are now out of jobs and looking elsewhere, as we'll get to throughout this hour.
Yeah, I can tell from experience because I had a job there for 2 weeks training to do stuff when originally it was CBS Sports Radio before it ever became Infinity Sports Network. And believe it or not, I trained on Zach Gelb's show, which we are going to talk about. I trained on JR Sport Brief show, which was also on there. The money was just impossible. There was no way for me to travel back and forth and do it on the money that they were offering. And apparently not too long later, it ended up going out of business. I don't know if I really want to say go out of business because they're changing the distribution because they're working with Westwood One. They're continuing to work with Westwood One, but now they're creating a gambling network / sports talk network called Westwood One Sports, which it makes no sense. It is poor corporate management and a failure to adapt to a podcast first world. That's where I lean on this. And a lot of great shows, which were being heard on 300 to 350 affiliates, which is a lot in radio. And unfortunately, some really good shows are out of work.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about, some of the people who have left. I mean, obviously, DA said, it is kind of demoralizing, Nick, because, ISN did a great job in those markets, as we have said. But I also think, though, Nick, it's just in a way, and I think you actually have a benchmarks episode about corporate radio or, sports radio in a way like dying, and I think, the best example that I have in your script is in my backyard when we had Extra Sports 690. They were the first real out-of-the-box sports talk 24/7 platform that really began to shape doing sports talk radio with Hacksaw, Quintera, Scott Kaplan, Billy Ray Smith, John.
I love Hacksaw. He's great.
Mason in Ireland, and then Ben Maller obviously got to start there at Extra 690 way back in the day. But more importantly, though, as well is corporate radio, though, Nick, has, killed a lot of things. And it's always around this time of the year, though, that this sort of stuff happens. I remember when Coach John Quintero, who I've known a long time in San Diego, he lost his job, I think, on this date roughly 3 to 4 years ago from KWFN. And he was never really given a explanation. There was a lot of speculation, though, about why he got let go when it came to certain things. But it's always around like the end of the year and start of the new year, though, where all this happens. And I don't know, though, really how to feel about this, because I just feel like we are oversaturating the sports radio space now with so much damn gambling crap. It's pathetic, along with the fact, though, too, about what had gone on with the NBA gambling scandal.
There's too many gambling networks. There's far too many gambling networks involved right now between, well, what used to be BetQL is now BetMGM Network. You have VSiN, you have DraftKings Network, you have FanDuel TV, you have VSiN. How many more gambling networks do we need? How many? Tell me, because I'm not understanding this whatsoever. I mean, I think part of it has to do with that most of the sponsorship revenue that's coming for sports content, excuse me, is coming from gambling networks.
As we know a little bit about here on ETB when we were still on playback.
Right. And and again, I'd be totally naive if I said we didn't work with a sports prediction market in Novig, which ended up not working out. But the point is, we got paid by them when we had accounts set up, and we got people setting up accounts. But there's too many gambling networks. Would I accept a gambling sponsorship? Yes, but we're not going to obsess over gambling content. It'll be involved in what we're doing. If you look at what we do on Football Forecast, we do it. It's part of we do picks against the spread, but there are gambling networks that are doing this 24/7, 365. And it's more about the gambling aspect than it is about sports. And that's the issue we're having. Like, why are we switching from an all sports radio network to talking about gambling for at least 10 hours of the 24 hours a day we have? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's part of the issue. As Christy says, I'm personally sick of gambling networks. Yeah, I agree. Like, but again, you and I are not naive of how this business works, that we're eventually going to have to find a gambling sponsor to really grow. But to shut this network down when it had a lot of fans across the country in a lot of different locations, some of the greatest radio I've ever heard in certain day parts. When I heard Zach Gelb, now Zach started in weekend overnights. He was on WIP in Philadelphia, and he used to drive up on weekends and do 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday.
Damn.
But you're forgetting, he was on 300 plus affiliates, because you're going to get the most affiliates on the overnight because people need to carry the show. So more people are going to be listening.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be eager to see how this works, but
I don't think it's going to work.
I don't think it's going to either. I mean, I just think when you're oversaturating the marketplace with so much gambling content and not the sports content that people want. I mean, if we have to keep circling back everything that's a sports headline to gambling, then we've lost the plot. Simple as that.
Well, I think what we're forgetting also is you need sports to do gambling. What's happening now is there's so much gambling out there that they're forgetting that they need to talk sports to complement the gambling aspect that all these networks need to do to be able to complement sports gambling content. That's what we're forgetting. That's the insanity. What's that dumb saying? The definition of insanity is repeating the same process over and over again, expecting the same result. So if we're just going to keep adding gambling networks, we're in the definition of insanity where we're just going to keep expecting the same result over and over and over again, to the point where we're just not going to have sports networks anymore, sports radio networks, sports TV networks anymore, because they're so focused on gambling between DraftKings Network, FanDuel Network, VSiN, so on and so forth. BetMGM Network. Do you really want to sit and listen to 12 hours of gambling a day or more? I could barely sit through 15 minutes to a half an hour of a gambling show, and now you want to put it on for hours upon hours every day? Trust me. Do I like talking about gambling and talking about the different aspects of spreads? Of course I do. But I can't take hours of it. It would make me nuts.
Yeah, you would probably go loony after a while when it's all about, well, like a regular 4-hour, 3 to 4 hour slot, and it's based off all off gambling. Eventually your head's going to explode.
And the worst part is, like, these guys try to talk sports to make it sound relatable to the fan, or relatable to, I don't know, the market or the customer. Because that's unfortunately what these people are to these gambling networks now. They don't care if they're a fan of sports. They care that they're a customer to BetMGM Network or anything like that. That's what they care about. These are not fans. They're customers.
I agree, Nick. We'll stay though with the ISN issues and move on though to where Milwaukee-based ISN host Bart Winkler publicly criticized the decision-making process about ISN's departure, stating that listeners were completely ignored in the move to shut down the network. Bart argues that the loyal audience built through years of engagement was treated as an afterthought in a purely financial calculation. Winkler's commentary highlights the disconnect between corporate radio executives and the communities that tune in daily, further alienating a base that is already migrating to independent creators. Nick, when a network, though, like ISN shuts down despite having a vocal and loyal listener fan base, does it, though, prove, though, that terrestrial radio has lost the ability to monetize community engagement in a way that satisfies the corporate debt that they have, though, racked up and accumulated, in your opinion?
This is terrible. Like, because I understand where Bart's coming from. So he was on Infinity Sports Network from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern. So he was doing like the late night shift.
Early evening out, in like the early evening shift in on the West Coast.
Very good show. I listened to it a bunch.
I thought he was great. I loved his style and loved what he brought to the table.
I like the fact that he's not the fluky corporate executive guy in radio. Like, he was just going to give you sports and give you a fan perspective when it came to being on network radio, which is hard. It's very hard to put on a national sports radio show Monday through Friday. It is. And by the way, I can let the cat out of the bag now since we're talking about it. We're going to talk to Bart Winkler in the new year.
Yes.
As a guest on the show.
Yes.
Because I want to hear, because Bart's comments went viral when he did his sign off of how he felt the fans were not taken into account when they decided to go from Infinity Sports Network to Westwood One Sports and a bunch of gambling. And he feels that the fans were not being heard. And I agree. I don't think the fans were being heard. Because if they were listening to the fans, if you did a better job of corporate marketing the network, maybe you wouldn't have to shut it down. And corporate executives sometimes are not the smartest people, I feel like, in this business, because did anyone really check to say, oh, I want Westwood One Sports, I want gambling at least 8 or 10 hours out of my day?
No.
Did anyone ask for that?
No. Hell no. I didn't. You didn't. No one out there in the right mind did, unless they're unless maybe it's maybe who probably wants it. I can tell you, though.
We should just call these networks the Degenerate Gamblers Network, because that's what they do here. Like, that's what we talk about. That's what we call the game during football forecast, like a game that, like, because you're just watching it because you have a bet on a game. Like, we call it
it's like the Giants and Raiders playing, for example, on Sunday. Like, well, I'm only going to watch it. I got a parlay on it, for God's sakes.
Or you're watching it because it's the or they call it the tank bowl, the toilet bowl, or the toilet bowl, right? But I totally agree with Bart, and Bart's last 10-minute segment, which closed out his show,
I thought it was gold.
Was spot on. The fans were not heard. They were not given the chance to say, hey, do we like this? And it's been a weird, like, because they found out this news in October that they were closing December 29th, I think was the last date.
Next Monday.
Or was it the 29th? Or I think it's 10 to midnight on the 28th, leading into the 29th. They've had a lot of classic hosts come back and do segments. They had Scott Farrell, who I think is amazing. Amy Lawrence, who did After Hours, who I could probably get on this show too.
Oh, I love Amy. Amy made my night that much better after, like, the Padres would play on, because she was on KWFN here in San Diego, which is the Padres flagship. And, like, After Hours was like my favorite late night talk show.
I got to meet Amy a few times when I was in the building there. I could probably get her on the show, probably. Because I'd be curious to know, and she's talked about it quite a few times because she's been making some reappearances on, Infinity, which used to be CBS Sports Radio, talking about what it's like being a woman in the business and how tough it is. And she worked at ESPN Radio for many years before taking the gig at CBS Sports Radio and ISN. She put on one of the best shows I've ever heard.
Yes.
And
she was very engaging with her audience too.
And that's the issue that the dumb clown suits up in the offices don't realize, that it's all about the corporate dollars. It's all about the money. It's not about fans. It's not about trying to build an audience.
Oh, you mean it was this?
Clown show, clown show, clown show, clown show.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem. Executives, they only believe in money. Now, let me not be naive. I get that businesses have to make money, but do you have to trounce something that's working for the sake of, well, we got to make every little dollar and cent we can get our hand on? No, you don't. And Bart was 100% right. And then it led to a stupid article on Barrett Sports Media. And yes, I'm going to call this out. And I don't care if Jason hears it, because I've known Jason before. And I want to pull this article up just so I don't mischaracterize, even though Jason completely mischaracterized Bart in this scenario. Here it is. So Barrett Media, I let me rephrase, because it's not Barrett Sports Media anymore. It's Barrett Media, because he wants to cover music radio, and he wants to cover sports radio, because he wants to be politically correct. But this article, which I don't know if you saw, Callan, but
I glanced over the headline and I thought, dude, is this really even your place to even make or even say any of that stuff at all?
So the headline for the article, or the byline, as Zan would say, is how you say goodbye on the radio matters more than you think. I'm sorry, what?
Please.
So it starts with saying goodbye on air to a radio audience and a job you love is hard. It's emotional and signals the end of a chapter in your career. As challenging as it may be, others pay attention to how you conduct yourself signing off, especially executives. See, this is where it started to lose me already. They won't call, text, or email you, but thanks to the wonders of social media, most see and remember your final act. He goes on to talk about Brandon Tiereny, which I don't know if you saw his sign-off on WFAN.
No.
So we'll come back to that. because we're going to talk about that too. He goes on to talk about how Doug Gottlieb signed off Fox Sports Radio, which we'll talk about later.
Yes.
So let me scroll down a little bit more. Okay. Not everyone at their former network signed off in similar fashion. This is what got me really annoyed.
So, yeah, who cares? Yes, I'm back doing my best Kirk Herbstreit impersonation again. You're welcome, everybody.
It's fine with me. So this is what he writes. Bart Winkler's sign-off last week was good for us at Barrett Media. First of all, who starts a sentence like that?
Who the hell does that?
Wait, because it made for a solid sports media story.
Or you want to be...
the fuck starts a sentence like that?
Or are you trying to be a bloodthirsty vulture to exploit this whole thing?
But wait. It left a bad taste in the mouths of some programming folks, though. What?
Huh?
The amount of texts I received. So now he's making it about him.
You lost me right there. If you're not going to give me the reason without injecting your opinion, as you long say about play-by-play announcers, you've lost the plot. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to read this damn clickbait story.
So it says the amount of texts I received over it surprised me. I didn't think it was Bart's best moment, but I understand where he was coming from. Okay, so now we're backtracking slightly. The end of his show and news of Infinity shutting down was hard for him to accept. Well, duh!
He's losing a job, you moron.
So then he goes on to say, but whether I agreed with Bart or not is irrelevant. Is it? Is it?
So Morgasen, here's the $1 million question. Sorry for me having to pop in and out here, but the 6-month-old dog is having a field day now that my folks have gone to go and get the Christmas shopping done for Christmas dinner on Thursday. So here's the $1 million question I have to ask. Why write the story, though, if you're going to inject yourself, though, and then try to basically tell people this is how you sign off of a radio show when you have no bearing on what they should do with their program?
Oh, wait, we're not done yet.
I didn't realize that there was a proper way, like there was one way to do this shit in this field.
But Jason, I know you, so this is what makes me laugh. And this is what's gotten Jason in trouble over the years with his site. Stop injecting yourself in the article.
That's why I can't freaking... That's why I can't get behind the story. And that's why, Nick, I only read the headline. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care that we're going to write and critique how people should go about handling their program and their content.
You're doing a nationally syndicated program. I think he's done it for quite a few years now.
Like,
he
was
supposed
to do.
He was one of the newer hosts, but still, like, let the man be. He's upset that he's losing his job. All the guys on the network were upset that they were losing their job. You're acting like these guys should be grateful that they're being allowed to sign off.
So Jason Barrett wants to be like Kathy Engelbert. Get on your knees and thank me for the media right deal I gave you. Get on your knees and thank me for giving you a platform on this radio station.
Basically. So can we characterize Jason Barrett as the Kathy Engelbert of sports media opinions?
Or
clown show, clown show, clown show, clown show.
That's what he's acting like, is a damn clown show.
Well, let's continue because he writes more, and I read this whole article and it sensed me in a lot of ways. So, as I said, but whether I agreed with Bart or not is irrelevant. First of all, why?
Again, who cares about your freaking opinion, though, if you're writing a story about how this person signed off their final show?
It's about the next opportunity at this point. Why use your final minutes on the air potentially turning off any decision maker who might consider you for future work?
Oh,
why are you reaching in his pocket?
So Jason Barrett's of the belief, though, that because of how he signed off, he's like, Bart Winkler's like never going to get a job in sports radio ever again. That's kind of how it feels like it's coming off, though, as you're reading the story.
So then it says maybe it creates some buzz clicks and views and a story on Barrett Media. But will that matter in a few weeks when you're hunting for the next gig? Dude! This is so nearsighted. Like,
it's pathetic.
Why are you making it about your site? I don't. Why are you making this about you?
I just have one more thing to ask Jason Barrett.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
Right. But answer that question for me. Why is he making this about himself?
That's why I said, as soon as you said, when I heard I'm like, I'm out. I don't care that you're injecting yourself into how someone is doing their final program.
No, but to say maybe it creates some buzz, clicks, and views and a story on Barrett Media.
That right there is like the ultimate self-centered, egotistic thing you could ever say.
Jason, you have a site. You run your own business. So you could say whatever the fuck you want on your site. These guys work for a corporation, putting on a national show, working very hard at their craft and what they do. And you're making it about you and clicks that are being generated? Hello, Isaiah Leong. Because that's what it sounds like to me, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is it about clicks or is it about content?
Clicks and views and hot takes.
So it goes on. There's more. It's not over.
But wait, there's more.
It's like a bad version of an infomercial.
It's a bad version of Billy Mays selling OxyClean to you.
Yes. In his farewell address, Bart said he was bitter because the listeners of the Infinity Sports Network were an afterthought. He said management never considered how they felt. He talked about the past 2 months behind the scenes, why he didn't understand the need for a new network, and expressed that although radio isn't dying, it will if people in charge continue to make decisions based on how do things cheaper and more effectively. Okay. That's the first thing that he said so far that's accurate. So far.
That's the first intelligent thing he said in like the last 20 minutes of this segment that we've gone overboard on.
But the problem is that's a regurgitation. So he's essentially repeating what Bart said. So far, this is a non-story, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it's a nothing burger, if you ask me.
It goes on to say, talents sometimes are so focused on their show that they don't look at the full scope of the business. What are you talking about?
I think they're supposed to be locked in on their show because it's their damn show, you moron.
It's a national show.
And it's on national radio.
First of all, like local radio, I think we've had this conversation before, you and I, where what's the difference between local and national radio?
I mean, locally, it's whoever's in your market, but nationally, you got to talk about all the big national headlines across the board.
Locally, you have the ability to work in a different aspect because you're controlling. So, like in your market, the Padres. Well, you don't have an NBA team, but so what would
Padres, Wave, SDFC, Gulls, Seals, all that.
Okay, so that would be what is it? Extra, what's the channel again?
Yeah, well, Extra went down, so it'd be 97.3 The Fan, then San Diego Sports 760.
Okay, so in those markets, those are the teams you'd be talking about, and you can get away with that because it's local radio. Here's the problem, Jason Barrett. When you're doing national radio, you have to partake and cover all the markets you're in. National radio is a completely different aspect that you have to pay attention. A national radio show, you have to be a babysitter to a national radio show. Okay? Because in local radio, you can talk about what you think is most popular in the market, and then you sprinkle in some national stories here and there to fill a 3-4 hour show. In national radio, you have to follow what's trending in all markets around the country.
Yeah.
So for him to say talent sometimes are so focused on the show that they don't look at the full scope of the business. First of all, he's a host. Why does he have to pay attention to the scope of the business? Explain that one to me.
Thank you, Christy.
But can you answer that for me? Why does he have to pay attention to the full scope of the business? He's a host.
Yeah, like, why does it matter to you? Like I've been saying, though, like, we're giving, like, a critique or criticism of how one person went about their content and their show. Why is it such a big effing deal?
So he goes on to say, good executives are always going to seek ways to be more effective while spending less. Okay, he's not wrong about that.
True.
Not wrong about that. It works that way in sports, politics, music, media, and many other. Okay, first of all, we're not talking about politics. We're not talking about music. We're talking about sports talk. So let's not change the subject when it comes to what he's complaining about here. Okay? This is a business, not a hobby. The goal is to boost profitability. There it is, while limiting expense.
So we've gone round and round in circles for the last 25 minutes on this damn topic with Barrett's story.
I find it hilarious. And he goes on to write about how, like, social media is being flooded because people are upset that Infinity Sports Network is going away and they listen to all these shows over the years.
Fan base got ignored. It's simple as that.
And then he writes, being sad, confused, concerned, angry, and emotional is natural when a job you love is going away. Oh, really? After the fact you say that? But part of a public job involves dealing with situations that are stressful and difficult. How you handle them says a lot about your maturity and ability to navigate sensitive business situations. Dude, they lost their jobs.
You need to shut the fuck up.
So you're telling me that they should act completely like nothing is going on and that they should just walk away. They should go skip like Mary Poppins outside the door when the network closes. And they shouldn't be mad whatsoever that a job that they worked hard on is just disappearing into thin air.
Absolutely terrible.
And it says Bart may not have handled this perfectly, but he's a good host. Oh!
So now let's go kiss his ass after we basically put him in the grave for how he signed off.
I'm looking forward to seeing him bounce back in the future. Are you? Are you, Jason?
I don't think so.
And then he goes on to say, I've always advised folks to look at the odds and play the long game. Oh, so now he's giving advice. Are you in better shape landing your next media gig with 20 decision makers instead or 10? You can still prevail with 10, but why cut the odds in half if you don't have to? You can disagree with a decision or direction, but how you discuss and deal with it gets noticed. But hey, don't take it from me. Maybe just watch Brandon Tiereny and Doug Gottlieb. They gave you the blueprint this way. Okay, my head is like going to explode.
Wow.
Jason. And here's the funny part, what I'm about to tell you. Jason was a radio executive working in stations.
I know.
And you're telling people how to sign off and how not to sign off? Really? Help me, because I'm lost here. Because...
We get to go to the first ever edition of the Credential Crate of Crap, Nick. How about that?
It's probably a good thing because I probably was going to say something that was probably not good.
So for those that are wondering, this will be like an occasional drop-in. We don't have the actual crate yet, but we do, though, have questions. This is based off Dan Lebitard and Stu Gotts when they would go to the, what was it called again? The mystical box?
The magical crate of content.
So this is like our deterrent to get us back on track. So we'll ask a very much random
open-ended question.
So with that, Nick, here's the question for today. Which fashion trend from the 2000s deserves to be punishable by jail time? frosted tips or low-rise jeans?
Oh, frosted tips. The hairdos back in the day. Justin Timberlake way back in the day when he was like a teen. Frosted tips. Jeans are jeans. People are going to wear jeans however they want.
Jeans. I will agree with you about tips because I think of two people on Prime Video who had them in Dallas, Dirk and Steve Nash, and they looked awful when they had them.
Yeah, the jeans are just a fashion trend, to be quite honest. Like, fashion trends come and go. But
Christy agrees.
But frosted tips, like, the hairdo looks weird.
Oh,
it's one of those things where you're just like, come on, man. Like, just pick a proper hairdo, something. Like, don't frost. First of all, why is it called frosted tips?
That's a hell of a question, honestly.
Hey, now I got to look this up because I need to know, why is it called frosted tips? It's called frosted tips because the bleached, lightened ends of the hair look like they've been dusted or dipped in white frost.
I can see that.
Creating a stark, icy contrast with the darker hair underneath, mimicking the look of frost on a surface.
Whatever.
I don't know.
Congratulations. You have seen the first edition of the Credential Creative Crap. We'll do this when we have to get away from a segment finally, and we'll be having more random questions. Welcome.
It's probably good because I was very close to saying something about Jason that I probably would not have been good. But long story short, Jason, be smarter, please. Like, that's all I ask here. Like, how would you feel if I said, well, you were closing your site and I said, you should only do it one way and you shouldn't I think you should write this, and this.
Right.
Leave Bart alone. And we're going to we'll talk to Bart in the new year because he went on social media and completely obliterated Jason in a big way.
Rightfully so. Next, staying in your neck of the woods at WFAN, another seismic shift that's happening as both Craig Carton, Brandon Tiereny, and Sal Licata have all departed the station. Now, all the departures of this magnitude often involve controversy. All reports point to nothing went wrong, and the split was a matter of contracts and strategic shifts. Both Tiereny and Licata delivered an emotional final show, while Carton is focusing more on his FS1 duties. The station is now pivoting back to both Evan Roberts and former Giants running back Tiki Barber in the midday, leaving a void of high-energy New York attitude that the trio once provided. Nick and WFAN still maintain their ratings dominance in New York without the polarizing high-stakes personality of Carton and the established chemistry of both Tiereny and Licata, or is the station entering a dangerous period of transition in your mind entering the new year?
So I just want to fix one thing because there's some reverse in the paragraph here. So Carton is coming to WFAN. Just to clear that up, just to make sure we're talking about the right thing. So BT and Sal, Brandon Tierney and Sal Licata, they got let go. Carton's taking over with Craig McMonagle from 2 to 7. McMonagle was doing overnights. So he's moving up with Craig to do the Carton show again, which was a complete failure nationally on FS1. And Evan and Tiki are going to 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time to take over that spot. So, I don't know. This is a tough spot for sports talk radio in general. And do I want to see Craig Carton back for the 3 millionth time on WFAN and take the show away from BT and Sal? No. I happen to have liked BT and Sal. I listened. I watched on YouTube a lot now because a lot of the stations are now simulcasting to YouTube. But who wants to see Craig for the 15 millionth time getting another chance on WFAN? The guy's a criminal, for crying out loud. He scammed a bunch of people with a ticket selling business. So he comes back. Then he gets the job at FS1, which pays him millions of dollars. Then the show doesn't work. The Carton show on TV just didn't work. But he's not a national guy. He should have stayed in the New York market. That's what he knows best. But as soon as the FS1 show ended, Everybody and their mother knew that he was coming back to WFAN. Everyone.
Right.
So BT and Sal, unfortunately, were the casualty because they had to move Evan and Tiki back out from Afternoon Drive up to where Evan and Joe originally were the midday show for WFAN for many years. That show was awesome. Probably the best midday show in sports talk history across the country. So Evan now goes back with Tiki to 10-2. Craig and Chris McMonagle now take 2-7. And BT and Sal are out. Now, they're going to say, oh, ratings. Well, yeah, because Craig always brings ratings wherever he goes. But how many times does an asshole deserve a chance to come back to a place?
Yeah, I feel like it should have been 3 strikes you're out. And I know that, I don't know Craig Carton that well being on the West Coast, but, obviously hearing, though, he's a polarizing figure when it comes to, the ticketing scam and, other issues he's had in his personal life. We're all for second chances, though, but when he gets a chance 3, 4, 5, 98, 99, 100, 6, 7, 8, 9, like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, I was never the biggest fan of Craig at all. And I think Christy actually says it. Well, the guy's an asshole. Still haven't forgiven him for his Dak Prescott comments. I think the real casualties are BT and Sal. Like I
agree.
I think that I think that's on the list too to talk about.
It's actually next about Brandon Tiereny following his WFAN exit. Nick, Brandon Tiereny has now already begun teasing his next move, a new independent show on YouTube. BT is a longtime veteran who, with a high-profile TV background, is following the trend of major radio personalities by bypassing traditional gatekeepers to build their own digital brand. The move will allow him to maintain a direct connection with his BT fan base without the constraints of FCC regulations or corporate program directors, further shifting the power dynamic in sports media. Nick, as BT prepares to launch his YouTube first show, does his move confirm that the most valuable real estate right now in media is no longer a radio signal, but an independent digital platform where the host owns the audience, much like us here with Empty the Bench Network?
So he put one out yesterday. This is his first official show on his own. Yeah. He's already got 6,500 subscribers on YouTube. What does that tell you as someone who's worked in the space? He's got 6,500 subscribers already on his own YouTube channel.
Within 1 day of launching it. Like, come on now.
So the show is called Unkillable to Unleashed. And if you look at the graphic, someone pointed out it's like very 90s where it's loud and like you don't see that.
Vibrant.
You don't see that anymore, which is kind of cool. Like, and that's something like that you and I were talking about because I want to work on our YouTube banner, and I'm having trouble getting it to fit in the
space. Yeah,
for all the different because like they have TV and desktop, and getting it to fit in. You have to fit the wording in the little constraints, even though it fits the whole thing. They did a really good job, whoever designed his graphic. But what was the question though again? As he prepares to launch his first show, does his move confirm that the most valuable real estate in sports media is no longer? Yeah, 100,000% that FM is no longer the most valuable piece of real estate.
Oh yeah,
anymore. Having an independent digital platform, which people are doing anyway, besides like they're doing shows on radio or TV, they're now launching their own entities so that they can control their own content and people are not taking money from it.
Yeah, no advertisers are taking money. No program directors are telling them what to do or what not to do.
Right, you control your own.
You have full ownership of your content now.
And then eventually, like when you find sponsors and you find revenue, the revenue all goes to you, and not sharing it with corporate overlords, as they say. If he already has 6,500 subscribers, that he can only go up, really. To be quite honest. Now, he's got partially a built-in audience from being a national host and then eventually going to FAN. So people are going to know him for name recognition, which is what we're working so hard on to grow. But he'll be fine. I don't know about Sal is still on SNY, so he still got that gig. Will he do radio again? I have not the slightest clue. I have no idea. But we're seeing like a lot of the network people, like they're moving on to other opportunities. Like I told you, like David Shepard, who was a weekend guy for ISN. He was already doing stuff for SiriusXM NBA radio. He's now going to have a full-time gig at NBA radio now. So, because he has to fill the hours. Because there were nights on weekends where he would go and do the NBA postgame show on SiriusXM NBA radio. And then he would run over to 345 Hudson Street, New York City, and go do the show from like 2 to 6.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. Having to be two places in one night to do shows.
No thanks.
So, but that's what the business is now. Either you have to
We have long said.
Why do you think people are launching podcast entities? Why do you think we're doing all this stuff? Why do you think we're trying to build stuff and build out a full content network of scheduling shows to build more fan base so we can get to those numbers faster? Like, he'll be fine. He's got a name. 6,500 subscribers is a lot. He already hit the monetization number technically already for 1,000. So, which took us a lot longer because I had to change a lot of things for us here. But if he's already at 6,500, he's going to hit 10,000 at 20,000 fast. Like,
oh yeah, and especially when people know him very well for what have you. So
his first YouTube stream, which was labeled New Chapter, 13,000 views in one day.
Incredible.
So he'll be fine. Not worried about him, and he'll figure it out. Sal, I don't know, but Brandon will be fine.
All right, Nick, we'll stay with ISN for one more story before we get to the top of the hour here. The late night or early morning duo of Maggie Gray and Andrew Perloff also addressed their departure from the now shuttered ISN. On their last broadcast, they sounded off on their frustration of seeing a talented team dismantled. Known for their chemistry and sharp analysis, the pair represents the national voice that many local markets, including San Diego, relied on for a broader sports perspective. Their future remains a topic of intense speculation, with many fans hoping they land together on a major streaming or satellite platform. Nick, given both Maggie and Perloff's chemistry and national recognition, does their exit though from ISN create an opportunity for a streamer like DraftKings or FanDuel to snap up a pre-built audience in a show? Or could they go the BT route, Nick, maybe, and do their own YouTube channel? What do you think?
So based on what I read, and I don't know the full situation of what they're doing, because they were very coy about it a little bit on air, but they say they have a deal, but they can't talk about it because of the legalities, crossing the I's, crossing the T's. I don't think it's DraftKings or FanDuel because they're really not taking on outside content really anymore, unless they're throwing sponsorship money behind it, and that's all they're doing.
We may have speculated about Netflix maybe because of the new sports division.
Or because of all the podcast stuff. But they're not technically a podcast.
They're a damn national radio show.
Which was podcasted. Now, could it become a podcast and then they're going to distribute the video side like they're doing for everything else? Prime Video, Peacock. I'm not saying those two are really in the podcast space, but Netflix could be behind it. There could be another digital network that could be behind it. But they're claiming that they have a deal, but they're not ready to talk about it as of yet, at least from what I understood. I met Maggie when I was in the building. She was not always the nicest person. But as I've gotten to watch the show, I actually do like the way the chemistry is between the two of them. I think that they do a really good show. Now, do you happen to know where Andrew Perloff is from? Where he came from originally?
No.
He was part of the Danettes on the Dan Patrick Show.
Oh, okay.
He was one of the lead guys. And then he got offered to do a show with Maggie Gray on CBS Sports Radio, which started from 3 to 6, when the 3 to 6 slot was still simulcasted on CBS Sports Network on TV, like how Boomer and Gio is in the morning. So they got really good. They finally figured out the chemistry, and then they moved from afternoon drive into morning drive from 6 to 10 in the morning. So this all goes back to what I'm saying about the network, which is, and Jason Barrett will never understand it because he thinks everyone should just sign off every which way that he believes works because everything's about corporate and not about feelings or family or personality. You have to find your next step in this business. Like we all get to do this business in life where think about what we're doing. We're talking about sports media. We're talking about sports. That's what we're doing in life. Okay? We're not digging ditches. We're not garbage men. We're not doing hard work like doctors in hospitals. We're talking sports and sports media, damn it. Like, so it's a fun job, but you have to realize that there's going to come a day where your networks fold or you get fired because the numbers are not working. Okay? And unfortunately to the clown suits at ISN, it's really
Clown show.
So it's not going to be DraftKings or FanDuel. It's going to be some other digital network that's going to pick them up, and they'll be fine. Just like JR Sport Brief will be fine. I heard he's going to be doing some more local radio in Atlanta and some national stuff. I'm trying to think who else is on the lineup. I don't know what Bart Winkler is going to do, to be honest.
No idea.
I could see he was doing podcasting on his own to begin with. Maybe he'll continue doing that. Maybe he'll do some local Milwaukee stuff again.
Packers, Brewers, who knows? Bucks.
Bill Ryder, who did 10 to noon Eastern out of LA. He's continuing the show, which, by the way, great name, Ryder Than You. Great name. No ego there. I just think it's really funny.
I think it's spot on.
So he's doing it through Substack, believe it or not. And he's bringing some of his Infinity, ISN, CBS Sports Network people to come do a show with him. Who else am I leaving out? Oh, Zach Gelb. Was that on the list to talk about or no?
No, I don't think so.
Zach, in my opinion, is one of the most up-and-coming stars on that network. And I don't know if you heard, or I told you the story that he thought he was going to be going to do the noon to 3 Eastern slot as part of this new Westwood One Sports lineup. And he was pretty much all set. He knew the guy who runs Westwood One, who's Bruce Gilbert, had a great relationship with him because Infinity Sports Network was syndicated through Westwood One through distribution. And he was told, like, oh, there's going to be a spot. And weeks upon weeks upon weeks went by. And all of a sudden they said, yeah, we decided to go a different direction. That sucks. When you find out that you think, oh, I pretty much have a spot on this new lineup. And then you're told, oh, no, we decided to go another direction. It's tough.
It is. I mean, it's a very bleak day, bleak week, like a lame duck week for all of these ISN hosts who are going to be out of a job come next Monday, as we've been hearing.
Most of the shows went off already just because they just didn't want to deal with the rest of the... I don't blame them either.
Week, yeah.
Well, no, I just don't blame them, period, because they know they're not going to have a job. Why are they going to continue to do the show? I spoke to Zach, too. Zach is going to be on the show with us in the new year. So,
yes.
Zach did follow me, too, because I don't know if you saw the tweet. I put out the quote tweet of that emotional clip he put out of a fan, and it was a great clip. I happened to be watching it live while he was doing it. A fan called in saying he's been listening for a very long time. He's blind. Like,
wow.
In a sad, like, very sad. And he was saying, like, the last game he watched was like the 13-second game. I think that was the Chiefs Bills, where Mahomes made the incredible drive down the field to win the game. And then he said he lost his eyesight after that game. And that Zach was the reason why he was able to listen to sports and audio distributed content. And it made the days easier knowing he had the show. Like, you know what? People who say that there's no emotions or no emotional connection to a fan base in sports talk radio, whether it's national or local. Actually, this wasn't in the rundown, but a certain show in San Diego just had a separation too, if I'm not mistaken, didn't it?
Yes. Jim Russell left the afternoon drive show on KGB AM San Diego Sports 760 due to the fact he's moved to Philadelphia, where his wife is originally from. Jim was very emotional that he had broken the news that his wife had miscarried when she was pregnant back in July. They had no family living out here in San Diego, and Jim had been doing the radio program before the holidays in Philadelphia from the iHeart studios. So I believe John Schaefer, who right now does the play-by-play for San Diego State men's basketball and football, I think he'll be safe. I'm sure they'll probably try to find the new co-host eventually, but that's where they're at right now with their program.
And that's a tough spot to be in. Like, again, where Jason Barrett believes there's no emotions attached to being in radio or media. It's all about family. It's all about life. It's all about, you have to make concessions to be in the media business. People forget that. You think we're sitting here just because, for no reason? Like, we work very hard around all our schedules to do all this content, to get it out there, to build something. And so do these people, whether it's that show in San Diego or the ISN network. You have to work very hard in this business to get somewhere. And sometimes that involves missing family events. Sometimes that involves missing big moments that go on in family to get that major interview, to help
missing holidays, the birth of your children.
When I worked overnight in radio for 2 years, I missed a ton of holidays. But that was the only way I was able to eventually work my way out of the overnights.
Yeah.
And eventually work 4 to 11 and not feel like the walking zombie every day. This business is not for everyone. It's not for everyone. You have to have a thick skin and a good stomach, as I like to say.
Yeah, you do.
So I get this, and I wish guys like Jason Barrett would understand that we all have more emotional attachment to the business, and it's not just a corporate fluke that he makes it out to be. Because if all we did was care about it from a corporate fluke standpoint, then radio would not be radio, or TV would not be TV.
Yeah, and to say that there's no emotion in sports, I mean, look at how players celebrate winning a championship or winning, or like, Miguel Rojas hitting that game-tying homer in the World Series, or Kawhi with that, ping pong shot that beat the Sixers. Like, don't tell me there's no emotion in sports and that we can't do that in a way. Same here with like when Bart Winkler loses his job and then calls out management for not letting the fans have their voice heard about how it was being run.
We work very hard, and there's going to be days where we have ups and downs in this business. Everyone thinks that when you're hosting a show like we do, or like they host a national show, they think that those guys show up for their 4-hour spot and that's all they do, and all the lackeys behind the scene run the show. That's not how it works. To put on a 4-hour show, you have to spend hours putting a show together. The producers can find the sound and help you build the show, but you, as a host, have to be able to put on a 4-hour show. That's what people forget. I mean, heck, you want to talk about how long we spend on this show every week? Go ahead. Tell everybody what we do to get to this show every week.
From literally the time that we sign off, we're already building the structure for next week. Literally.
We spend a good 4 to 5 days, at least, on...
And then have one colossal meeting to go over the rundown the night before or the day before the show.
Because things change. Because the way our show is, media changes.
Literally, we had to add 2 stories to press clippings today because we had 2 big stories break before the show took the air today.
So anyone who thinks we just show up and do a 3-hour show without any prep, like,
You're sadly mistaken.
Go ahead. Anyone who wants to challenge that out and say, how do I could do a show without prep or a rundown. Now, you and I have been in this business long enough where if we just threw a list of banners in there, you and I could probably talk about it because we've done this enough times to really understand topics. And you and I follow enough trending news to know what's going on. But we're never going to do that because that's not fair to the people who are watching the show.
It'd be a disservice, exactly. All right, Nick, we're kind of against the clock now here as we get ready for a Tuesday episode of the Football Forecast in the recording studio today. Nick, hour 3, though, Doug Gottlieb has officially announced his intentions to step away from his daily radio show to focus entirely on his coaching duties at the University of Wisconsin Green Bay as the head coach of their men's basketball program. After attempting to juggle both duties for over a year, Gottlieb admitted the team deserves a fully dedicated coach. In his place, John Weiner, better known as Stu Gotts, is reportedly set to take over his national spot on Fox Sports Radio. This marks a huge shift in tone for the afternoon drive show, moving from Gottlieb's X's and O's analysis to Stu Gottlieb's brand of Dan Le Batard era chaos and humor. Nick is adding Stu Gotts, or is moving Stu Gotts into a daily national radio solo slot. The ultimate validation of the Dan Le Batard show tree, or will his unique, chaotic style struggle, though, to land with a traditional Fox Sports Radio audience better known or accustomed to Gottlieb's more analytical approach to talking sports on the radio?
I was never the biggest Doug Gottlieb fan. I feel like he was a little egocentric. A little. He actually was he was one of the very few that started on CBS Sports Radio, too.
Yes.
They had a heck of a lineup, just for a second, between...
They almost had like a murderer's row at one point.
The morning show was always moving, so I can't really judge that slot until, until DA came in and took it over. But they had a ton of shows. They had Gottlieb, they had Pharrell. Incredible lineup. So he eventually then moves. Actually, he started at ESPN Radio, then went to CBS Sports Radio, and then ended up at Fox Sports Radio. So he's been on all of them. He's been on the trifecta of national sports networks. But think about this, and I'll take it from this perspective. Can you imagine being a head coach of a college team and then having to carry your national radio show on location where you have to go?
No, thank you.
Think about that, though. Like, he said at one point, like, he couldn't ride the team bus with the guys to the games because he had to go separately due to him doing his show Monday through Friday. Originally, it was 3 to 6. Then it became 3 to 5. Can you imagine that?
No, and I think, though, I respect Doug for the decision because I think he's right, though. The team deserves to have their coach. You know, because, Nick, one of the things my dad preaches, he's been coaching baseball here locally for like 40 years, as long as my older brother has been alive since 85. So he's coached, youth ball, travel ball, high school, semi-pro, college. The one word he has is buy-in. Doug Gottlieb would probably says, you guys better buy in. But in turn, though, the players would probably say, well, coach, you're not buying in because you're still doing this radio gig on top of trying to coach us in the process. Where I think it goes to Doug's point, though, I need to be fully invested in my guys. Where I think, though, that did he at one point coach, I want to say, or did he play at one point before he became a radio host?
He played. He was a great college player. I don't think he ever made the NBA, though.
So I think, though, I think I respect him, though, about pointing that out, though. I think it was more like, let me try it for a year, see if I can actually balance it out, though. And I think it finally boiled down, though, I got to pick one or the other. And I think about that a little bit, though, Nick, about Chick Hearn, legendary Laker broadcaster, who I know very well from living in SoCal. He had missed a game early in his Laker tenure because he was covering a college football game, and he couldn't fly out because of the weather to meet the Lakers on the road trip. Jack Ken Cook, who was the owner, told him, Chick, can't have you missing games, buddy. Ultimatum. Lakers or all this other shit. And obviously Chick ultimately went that route. So I don't know if it was like a given ultimatum. I think, though, that Doug probably said, let me try it for a year. And when the free trial ends, I'm not going to go back and do it. So I think I give him props for that.
There was a story going around the past couple of days. Bob Wischusen, right?
Yes, I love Bob Wischusen.
So there was a story going around, and I have to see if I can find it. He was having traveling issues because, Bob, like Bob does what? So he does the Jets on the radio. He does
college football.
I think he does some hockey.
He's like number 1 or number 2 for ESPN.
And he was having trouble getting to New Orleans because I forgot what game he was doing the day before, but he was doing something. I don't know what. But The Athletic did a story that he was having trouble getting to New Orleans for whatever reason because he was working like a late game the night before. Now, we were talking about that in the NBA. Who was it? Kevin Harlan.
Kevin Harlan or Michael Grady?
No, but I think it was Kevin Harlan who worked a night game and had to do a day game for the NFL the next day.
Yeah.
Think about these play-by-play guys. They have to do multiple sports. They have to do all these things to make a living. It also goes to show you that they don't trust other voices, that they want the same guys on all these different sports. How many does he do? So Harlan does the NFL, he does the NBA, he does the tournament.
March Madness, Packer preseason football.
And then we have Ian Eagle, who does the NFL, the NBA, March Madness. Does he do anything else? The Nets.
Nets.
Ryan Rucco, NFL, NBA.
WNBA.
The Nets.
Women's Final Four.
So think about it. When you become a prominent name in the play-by-play space, you're golden because you're going to get multiple opportunities to do different sports.
Now, I'm not going to put myself in that upper echelon, but I've been there between Division II, Division I, American Hockey League, professional indoor soccer, going multiple places in one day, 3 games a day to fulfill that quota. Now I'm just more like AHL Division I athletics for college, but still, yeah, everything's close. But even then, in a way, it's like going, and I've done this before, you go from one sport, like everyone else, one game one day, one game later in the evening, different sports, different roles. This has to mentally change from what you're going from day one to from game 1 to game 2, game 3, what have you.
So long story short, Gottlieb steps away from his Fox Sports national show from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. John Wiener, yes, that's how you say his name, from Stugotz, as most people know him, who was part of the Dan Le Batard show with Stugotz, which I don't know if that with Stugotz character is going to last much longer on the deal.
Petty bullshit, you two.
What?
Said they should cut the petty bullshit already.
Well, it's getting annoying because, like, Stugotz has been off the show for how long now? It feels like months upon months. We've talked about the divorce before, kind of, even though they won't announce why he's back on the show. But now Stugotz has come out and said that there's 9 dates in January that supposedly the Meadowlark has given him, and he's going to be on the show. And if you don't see him on 9 dates after New Year, it's because they chose to keep me off. How do I feel about the move? Stugotz was already starting to do his own podcast content anyway. Now, I knew there was an issue because Meadowlark and the Le Batard show are distributed by DraftKings. Excuse me. And Stugotz and company is represented by FanDuel.
Yes.
So I already knew there was an issue there, that they're going a different direction. God bless football, which was also part of Meadowlark. He took it back because David Sampson, who we're going to talk about shortly, supposedly kicked the show off a Meadowlark, which I don't understand why. But now it was announced that the full Stugotz podcast network is now going to be part of iHeart Media.
Are you people?
And the weird thing is that a lot of the Le Batard fan base, which they've built over 20 years of doing
Long
that show.
time, yes.
And each of them, and they're saying like, well, Dan is a buffoon who talks too much politics now, and Stugotz really can't lead a show because he was the sidekick of Dan for the longest time. What do they say about duos forever when eventually they split? What happens to both sides? They can't survive because they need one another.
They do.
So I happen to like Stugotz. I think he's funny. I think the personality though is a little too circus-like a little bit, but like I like Stu. I think he can be great. He loves doing radio. That's why I think he went back to it. But now it's going to be from voices that used to be heard on the DLS show. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work out. It's national drive time radio. I read the release. He's going to be on 270 stations nationwide. It's going to be distributed to iHeart. It's going to be distributed to Fox Sports Radio's website. It's going to be on Stu's YouTube channel. It's you might see some old voices now return because they'd rather be with Stugotz than with Dan at times. But I hate seeing like duos like just split apart. Can you think of any that are like that at all, or no?
Not really.
I used to watch that when it was on ESPN radio, like when they would simulcast on TV. That's how far back I go with that. Used to be like my appointment watch. Like I'd come home, like from whatever I was doing college wise, I just plop down and just watch from like 10 p.m., not 10 p.m., 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time every day. I think it'll be a better move than Doug Gottlieb because Doug could be a little too analytical at times. Stugotz is nowhere near analytical at all. Complete opposite. But I think it'll be more relatable to the audience to have a little more fun in that regard. Like you said in the paragraph, Gottlieb is very X's and O's, analytical.
Bring in the coach mentality.
Right. Stugotz is more likes to be the clown of the situation. So I think it's a better fit. I think you'll see more people listening to it. But yeah, we're talking about a lot of radio moves in national radio today.
Nick, you want to handle the next one?
Oh, good. Let's head to Duval. Liam Cohen slaps back at Sean Payton's small market Jag snub. Gee, why am I saying it that way? You'll find out in a second. Jaguars head coach Liam Cohen had a fiery response to Broncos coach Sean Payton following Jacksonville's 34-20 win over Denver, which that was a great game. Really good game. Two really good teams, which no one expected Jacksonville to go anywhere. And now we're talking about possible run. Earlier this week, Payton referred to the Jaguars as a small market team while trying to compliment them. Cohen used the comment as fuel, opening his post-game presser by saying, quote, grateful a small market team like us could come into Mile High and get it done. The locker room reportedly celebrated with, quote, belt to ass chants, which I'm getting a little tired of that. It's a little annoying. Showing the massive chip, on the shoulder of the 11-4 Jaguars. Callan McClurg, our resident Mr. Small Market, is predictably delighted. Does the small market label still carry a negative stigma that coaches can use for bulletin board material, or is Liam Cohen effectively rebranding Jacksonville as a gritty, quote, us against the world powerhouse?
Can we stop with this stupid, fake-ass small market syndrome that we're all suffering from if you're not living in San Diego or Jacksonville, Florida?
I personally don't understand why, if you lose a game that you're supposed to win, and the excuse that some people make is, oh, well, it's a small market.
When the hell does population, weather, and damn freaking market size win or lose you a football game or any game in general?
It doesn't. The answer is zero. Market population has nothing to do with it. Why are you mad because you lost to a smaller team Is that why? Is Sean Payton? Is that why? Like, so what? You lost a game. Jacksonville's actually a good team, believe it or not. It's become a really good team.
Maybe you look at the record and not the population.
I mean,
and I will say the same damn thing about JMU and Tulane. That whole argument, by the way, regarding, oh, you got to break the group of 5 and mid-majors into their own separate playoff. Give me a fucking break.
The one thing I will say about
discrimination, believe it or not.
The one thing I will say that's a little bit different for the JMU Tulane is that I agree with what people are saying that there shouldn't be an automatic Power 5 school bid. I don't think that. I'm not saying if they get the record, they should definitely make it. I agree. But to have it as an automatic bid is a different discussion, I think. You know what I'm saying?
Even then, I don't care if they got blown out. They deserve to be there because of what the record said, not bad losses, not this, not that.
I agree. No, I agree.
And then if you really were to separate them, take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else and only put them in their own playoff field, what is that saying? That, oh, you're not allowed to play in the CFP against Ohio State, regardless of what the scoreboard says?
Well, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying that if they got the wins, then they should be in the CFP. If they don't have the wins, enough wins, they shouldn't be in the CFP. That's more where I'm going with that.
I think Nick, though, that back to Liam Cohen and Sean Payton, who again, Payton's got enough dirt on him as Tom will explain to you folks on in the benchmarks episode regarding the Bounty Gate situation that happened with the Saints.
Correct.
Nick, I feel like more though the last, I'd say 4 to 5 years, dating back to 21 in the NBA Finals, Bucks and Suns.
Yes.
The 23 World Series, Arizona and the Rangers. Even this past NBA Finals, Oklahoma City and Indiana.
Which ended up being a great finals, by the way.
Why does this argument always get thrown around just because it's not the major market cities? Why do you people out there think my Substack name is Mr. Small Market / Mr. Mid-Major when it comes to college athletics?
Why do you think a whole show was created behind ET?
Why do you think an entire audio podcast was created called Empty the Bench Small Market Edition?
I think what people mistake, and this is a problem for people who are thinking more from a financially constrained situation, is they think, well, there's no way to make money unless we have the Knicks or the Lakers or the Celtics, or in baseball, if you have the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets and the Red Sox and so on and so forth, which is such a non-forward way of thinking.
It's such a outdated, ignorant crutch to hold yourself up when you get off the couch.
I would say 10 to 20 years ago or a little more, yes, you did have to rely on the major market teams because the small market teams were not getting enough promotion and enough advertising dollar, enough sponsorship behind them. So there was no money to be made. Now, with a social media digital presence, anyone can build, whether it's a small team or a large team, if you do it the right way with a creative outlook.
Correct. So, I agree with that.
So this whole excuse of that Peyton is making the excuse of, oh, it's a small market team. Population has nothing to do with how well you play on the field or how much executional.
That went back to a point I brought up, though, when Press Row was at a different platform, and Rick Carlisle and the Pacers had sent like 50 missed calls from their playoff series with the Knicks for the review of the NBA.
I remember that.
Carlisle had the gall to say, well, because the NBA has the Knicks in their back pocket. And in a way, I said, Rick, you should know better that you don't make that argument. The NBA, the referees aren't worrying about population and TV market size when it comes to how they call games. Yes and no, but I thought the argument was bogus.
What I will say is bogus is that you're sending in 50 calls into the league office when they're not good. If you did like 3 or 4 they're going to look at them and say, okay, maybe we got to make a change. But when you're sending like 50, that just sounds like sour grapes a little bit in the sense of.
Okay. I don't think. The main problem I have, though, is I will use the Padres as an example. Nick, I have watched so many bad years of Padre baseball, not including 96, 98, 05, 06, partially 07, partially 2010. And then obviously the last 5 years, the team has been good for the first time really in my lifetime, where we've actually made consistent playoff runs. We have consistently spent the money to get players who actually want to come here.
You're doing it now.
Not look at us as a fucking retirement home as they used to back in the day.
You're doing it now. You guys are spending money now.
So this is the thing this is my main thing, or the problem that always, doesn't sit right with me. When all of a sudden is it a bad thing for a sport when a small market like my hometown, 8th largest by population, if you want to go down that freaking rabbit hole with me, who doesn't have the NFL, no NBA team, no NHL team, relying on baseball and the foreign version of football called soccer to put themselves on the sports map when you're stuck an hour south of that cesspool that is Los Angeles, California, where they have teams in every single major professional sports league out there, and you're trying your best to knock that damn team, you know who they are, who've won back-to-back World Series titles, off that pedestal. Have they gotten close? Yes. 2022, 2024, they were close. Never got off the hump, though. But why, though, is it such a bad thing if the Bucks and Suns get to the NBA Finals or the Thunder and Pacers get there? From the simple fact that you don't have the Knicks and the Lakers playing in the final or the Dodgers in the final? Can we please kick that stupid can down the road and actually start pronouncing states like Oregon and Nevada correctly for a change, too?
I agree with you. I mean, to me, it doesn't matter who makes the finals. It doesn't matter. If you're the best team, then you made the finals. It doesn't matter.
And also, by the way, please take that bullshit argument. I'm not going to watch because it's not the Lakers and the Celtics playing. Take that and shove it where the sun doesn't shine, because look at where the ratings were for the entire NBA Finals with Oklahoma City and the Pacers.
First of all, that series went 7 games, too. I mean, if it wasn't for Tyrese getting hurt, that game 7 is probably ultra competitive, and it's probably one of the more watched game 7s in NBA history, probably. Even though the Pacers somehow managed to stay in that game until the very end.
Yes.
But the whole small market thing when it comes to the playoffs, first of all, is there really small market once you get to the playoffs, though, of any sport?
Playing with house money. Every team's playing with house money when you get to the playoffs.
Well, I wasn't even talking about from that standpoint. I'm saying from once you're in the playoffs, the NFL really takes over all the promotion and the marketing, or the NBA or the national outlets take over for promotion of what goes on in the playoffs. Now, the way this is heading, everything is going to be national.
Yeah, as we've
at
been
some point,
saying, though, for the entire show.
So, is there really going to be a distinction anymore in the next couple of years between and I'm not going to use the San Diego Padres because I think they're considered a little bit bigger than people make them out to be.
Probably is now, before you go on, is that because of the fact you're saying that because they're the main show in town because the NFL franchise is no longer here, where it would have been the other way around as it was for so long?
No, but I'm just talking about for the sake of just now because the football team's not here. Okay. But my point is, I wouldn't use San Diego as the example of small because, like you said, they're the 8th biggest population.
Yes.
So I wouldn't consider that small market, really, to be quite honest. Anything that's in the top 10, I would consider at least medium-sized market, at least. I'm trying to think of something that's really small, like
Jacksonville.
Okay, so once everything becomes national in the next couple of years, because that's where we're heading at this rate, because the RSNs are a complete nightmare, will they be on the same exact level, like a Jacksonville compared to, I don't know, like a New York Giants?
What about Kansas City? What about Kansas City?
I would say they're mid-market at best. At best.
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Right below mid-market. probably, I wouldn't say they're mid-market. They're probably right below it. I mean, the Jazz have been around for God knows how long. They did have an NHL team that went away, right?
No, they're there now. That used to be in Arizona.
I still think that's TBD. I don't know how that's going to work out. And then what else do they have?
That's it. They got college.
College does pretty well for them.
Utah Utes.
Yeah, they do pretty well. But once everything becomes national distribution fully, including regular season games, and because that's where we're heading. Let's just be real. Like whether it's streaming or it's on TV, everything is going to be nationally distributed. Jacksonville's going to end up on a much higher level. Not are they going to be New York? No, but everything is going to get distributed at the same level now.
Before we wrap up, Nick, I also think part of the stigma that is small market syndrome is like Jacksonville. They've been terrible for God knows how long. So why all of a sudden, though, when a team like them gets good, like I said earlier, they get good, and then you have people take that pot shot about, hey, they should feel honored to play us because they're a small market team. Like, seriously?
Who gives a shit whether you're playing a small market, mid-market, major franchise? Like, it's weird. Like, when people come to MSG to play the Knicks. Welcome to the world's most famous arena. And, like, everyone makes a big deal. Like, when LeBron had the 50...
Welcome to Crypto.com Arena, the sports and entertainment center of the world.
Well, I think more of MSG just because of everyone says the world most famous arena. Like everyone. Now I get it from a standpoint of like, oh, like I wish I could have gone to see Kobe play at MSG. That probably would have been awesome because I think he had a 60-point game at MSG, or seeing LeBron play at MSG would have been cool. But it's not the be all end all, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, I think LeBron in his prime anywhere would have been amazing. Like, I think small market teams would take it way more seriously, and some of the bigger markets are going to take it for granted.
Of course.
Like, do you really think like the Knicks are going to take that partially for granted? Because LeBron, they know that they're going to see LeBron way more times than Utah is or Memphis is.
Phoenix.
Sacramento. Sacramento. And they have some really good young players too, but they're going to struggle because of the market that they're in. Not that it's deterring their play. I'm saying that
it's a tough sell. That part I agree with.
I think that's the other, and I think you just made a good point that we need to have discretion and differentiate the difference between the ability to win and the ability to build long-term and whether the market is sellable to build into a bigger market.
And I can think of like 3 or 4 already. Sacramento in the NBA. Sacramento, Salt Lake City, NOLA, DC.
Yeah. So 4. DC's tough. They've just struggled going all the way back to
when they got John Wall. They were still struggling.
Well, I was going to say that they had the unfortunate situation with Gilbert Arenas and Javaris Crittenton, and Crittenton's a jailbird and will be there for the rest of his life because they decided to shoot guns off in the locker room playing blackjack in the locker room, which was illegal at the time. It still is. But this whole thing is stupid. Like, stop with the small market moniker. If you win, you win. You lose, you lose. Sometimes I think the small market having the chance to be in the public spotlight is sometimes a good thing because it helps grow the rest of the league that the big markets are a part of. If we're only going to worry about big market teams forever, what's going to happen to those small market teams?
Exactly. And maybe a few people should look up the word parity in the dictionary.
That's the problem, because if you want the Knicks and the Lakers and you want the Yankees and the Dodgers to win everything, what's the point of having other fan bases?
Exactly.
At this point. All right, where are we? Okay.
Let's move on, Nick. Yeah, this one, though, was interesting. Former longtime baseball executive, former Marlins GM David Sampson has begun to stir the pot, though, by labeling the WNBA players as greedy during their current labor negotiations. Sampson argues that while the league is growing, the players are asking for revenue share that the current business model cannot sustain without bankruptcy. His comments have been met, though, with fierce backlash from players and fans who point out the new massive media right deal for $200 million per season and the league's record-breaking valuation, though. But Sampson's business-first approach, though, does highlight the cold reality of the ongoing potential lockout coming up on January 9th. But also, Nick, Sampson also argued that the league could fold, though, but the players would have avenues, though, to still play the game at a high level, with both Project being unrivaled and Players Unlimited. Nick, by calling, though, though, Nick, Sampson calling the players greedy during a period of uncertainty with the growth, though, is he providing a necessary financial reality check or using an outdated, stale management philosophy that ignores the transformative market value, though, of the current league stars and the league as a whole, though, despite the ongoing lockout proceedings?
No, I think this is actually a financial reality check. I agree, because could we, in reality, see the WNBA fold if they can't come to an agreement on percentage distribution?
We've long speculated that, Nick, because of the rise of Unrivaled, now the rise of Project B, Athletes Unlimited, though, and also, Nick, I think back, day one, first day of school being here in April, Kathy Engelbert at the podium, they're not competition.
No one's competition, not just them.
No one's competition.
Which makes no sense to me whatsoever. But again, what are we talking about here? Because this is all about money. And you and I we've had long conversations, and eventually it's not if, it's when a WNBA lockout happens. And I just came across a story from Alexa Philippou, by the way, that broke.
Boy.
And it talks about
what do you got?
And it talks about why the players authorized a strike. I don't think we talked about this yet either.
No, I don't think they have utilized the strike yet, but it is still on the table.
Well, just in case people didn't know, they had to go vote to authorize a strike, meaning not that they're doing it yet, but they had to
consider it at least.
Well, they had to tell the union, hey, if this is not going to get any better, we all voted. And if you have to go put a strike in place because we're not getting where we are, that puts more legal tools at their disposal once a strike is in play. So she wrote, Alexa Philippou, who is a WNBA, who does WNBA coverage for ESPN, said industry insiders weigh in on the likelihood and merits of a potential strike, as well as the union's apparent strategy. So what do onlookers think about a strike? A vote to strike would be unprecedented for the WNBA. There has never been a work stoppage in the history of the league. First of all, the league hasn't been around that long. How long has the league been around for? 20 years?
1997.
So that would be
almost 30 years.
Almost 30 years. Okay. So for them to say that there's never been a work stoppage, they're making it sound like the league's been around for 100 years. Industry insiders have a range of opinions on the likelihood and merits of a potential strike, particularly one so long before the season starts, as well as the union's apparent strategy. Quote, if you're so far apart as the union claims, and the negotiations have not gone well, and you have the right to strike at any point in time, why are you not striking? One industry source said. If it's all negative with no progress, what are you waiting for? So that's part one. I kind of agree. Why are you waiting for the strike if you're not getting what you want?
Why not do it now? As we'll talk about a different strike later on in the show when we wrap up here in a few minutes.
And it says, it's okay to strike to me, one agent told ESPN. In some cases, walking away saying no is a really good part of the strategy and negotiation. Now, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I don't think David's actually wrong. Now, I think, though, the grade part's a little bit much because of them wanting more than 9% of the basketball revenues we've been talking about.
Why shouldn't they get more than 9%?
Yeah. But I think, though, he's right, though, that this is a financial reality check of where the W stands right now, that they're kind of on shaky ground, despite, all the growth, the media deal. But again, though, Nick, as we said, though, we've long been on this hill, though, if more big name players say, "Hey, it's unrivaled. Hey, Project B," where does that leave the WNBA in a way? I think he's right though on that part, though.
So the Philippus story goes on to say, but not everyone believes the league would be willing to come closer to the players' demands with the threat of a strike looming. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver going to step in. Oh, so that was another report that came out that supposedly Adam Silver is going to come
may have to become the new moderator for these negotiations, and that's not going to help.
Yeah, I don't believe that, right? At all. Yeah. Is going to step in and say, ladies, we're not moving on this and this and this, but we'll do this and this and this, and then we're going to get a deal done early January. Another agent predicted. That is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard in my entire life. They're not going to get a deal done before January 9th.
No way. But again, though, Nick, before we move on here, we're going to be all ready to go for the show when that happens, and then we're going to be, we got a 30-day extension. And then it says, nonetheless, one common belief among insiders is that for all the potential strike talk, the players in the league understand the importance of having a 2026 season, so it is still unlikely that games will be missed. Oh, come on. I won't buy that one iota. Give me a break.
Really? The way these negotiations have gone on, we've had 2 extensions of the current CBA, as we like to say, moving the goalposts because of what we're doing here. Someone said, I think a work stoppage by technicality is possible. Another league source added, I'm not worried at this point about missing any games. Come on. Who are you fooling?
Nobody.
Yes. But Sampson, do I think he's right in some regards? Yes, I do. Could I see potentially the W fold because they're never going to agree to a distribution?
It would take a hell of a lot more than that for the league to fold, honestly.
Right, but if they're not going to play games, which, by the way, and I think I said this to you last week, how do you agree to a deal with Versant if you don't have games ready to go?
Right.
So you're going to be on the USA Network. And by the way, they finally did the right thing. They got national broadcasters to call the game, not the stupid Ion BS where they're taking local feeds and making them national.
Last Thursday, yeah.
And how do we know we're even going to see this? How do we know if we're going to get games this season?
No kidding.
And I'll tell you right now, if there's no games and they all go play at Project B and Unrivaled and all this stuff, why would the players ever want to come back to the W? Why?
I think that goes to David's point that the league could fold.
Before we move on, the ETB Lounge is coming. Join Callan on January 5th at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. That's a lot closer than I realize now. For the grand opening, then catch Nick DiMartino in the lounge on January 10th. Which will also be 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific. It's a new era of fan interaction. Think of this as sports late night. It's not the political BS you get from Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert or all this nonsense. We're going to have fun talking sports in a late night aspect. You both are going to write monologues. We're going to have some fun.
Yeah, we're still kind of tweaking the segments a little bit to actually get them where we want them to get, though. Nick will have a bit more of a open mic comedy form than anything else, but it's going to be great. I'm stoked.
Yeah, and so yours is going to be very sports centric. Nick's is going to be a sports with a mix with comedians. We already have 2 people confirmed for his show. We have 2 for your show at least already, and
maybe a third in the wings. We'll see.
So. And we'll probably do some rotation in, depending on, like, in the summer, we might have some people from here doing stuff in. So we do have people finally, which was the nerve that we were kind of fighting, coming up on the end of January. The end of December here. I'm already wishing 2026 partially away.
You're ready to get back to doing more content.
So be ready for that. All right. Moving on here.
Last topic for the show before we get to press clippings.
Your neck of the woods, the Pittsburgh Penguins sold again to the Hoffman family. Just 4 years after Fenway Sports Group, which owns a lot of entities, by the way. This is the group that LeBron is part of, right?
Yes.
Okay. Purchased the team. The Pittsburgh Penguins have been sold again. The Hoffman family of companies has reached an agreement to acquire a controlling interest through Fenway Sports Group. Though Fenway Sports Group will remain a minority shareholder for a transitional period. The Penguins have struggled on the ice recently, and this sale brings in a family known for heavy investment in hospitality and real estate. The leadership is under Kyle, was that Dubas?
Yeah, Kyle Dubas.
Wow. And I'm not the hockey person. Somehow I managed to get that somewhat right. Is expected to remain in place, but a new ownership group signals a potential shift in how the team navigates its aging core and future rebuild. This kind of sounds like what's going on with the Buss family with the Lakers a little bit. Why did Fenway Sports Group decide to offload a controlling interest in a premier NHL franchise so quickly? And does this sale suggest they are pivoting their capital toward a potential NBA expansion bid or another massive acquisition?
That'd be weird if they went to an NBA bid. But yeah, no, the Penguins have struggled, and that's not what you're used to hearing, though, when you have Crosby, Malkin, and Letang on your roster. But I mean, I think, though, that fans have been burnt out, though, by the ownership of how they have not gone about hires, coaching. Kyle Dubas has not really been the most appreciated GM in recent history. I'm a bit shocked, though, that it would be just so quickly, though, Nick, of 4 years. And by the way, Forbes had them ranked at number 22 in franchise valuation. That's with them having 5 championships and like 3 of them coming in the last 10 to 15 years. The new arena got built and stuff of that caliber. So you wonder, though, and I think, though, Nick, it's more of this burning question. Was FSG's heart really into making the Penguins what they were, though, after their last run in 2017? And I think absolutely not.
Like you said, the Penguins have struggled. They've been sold, resold. Wasn't Lemieux part of the ownership at one point?
I think he still is, yeah.
But like, wasn't it like a back and forth scenario? Like they were trying to decide like how much he was going to have and if he was still going to be part of it at some point. I mean, you have 2 aging stars now, which I can't believe I'm saying this now because I remember when Sidney Crosby and Malkin were young kids. I remember that.
Yes.
Remember, like it was the kids.
Yes.
And now they're both close to 40?
And Crosby just passed Lemieux for the club record in points.
The 2 of them got to be close to retirement. Probably.
Yeah, they have to be.
But I remember when they were the biggest stars in the league. I remember that. And then, what was it, over the last year, there was rumored that they could be traded, one of them?
Well, there was that, and then there was when the Igloo, the old Mellon Arena / Pittsburgh Civic Center, was not up to snuff, and the franchise only moved to Kansas City, ironically enough, in 2006 or 07. That was when they got Crosby, too.
Right. I don't know. I just when you have to resell ownership 4, 5, 6 times, that's not good. That doesn't look good.
Come on, Pittsburgh is probably one of the best, mid to upper level markets for sports. I mean, the Steelers have always been good. The Pirates, I know, have been mediocre for God knows how long, and then the Penguins kind of brought Pittsburgh sports back to relevancy with their championship runs over the past couple of years. I just don't understand it.
No, you're right. Will it work out? I have no idea. Don't have the slightest idea if this is really going to work or function properly as it does. But I don't know. You would know better than me when it comes to hockey. I don't. Do you know much about the Hoffman family? Because I don't know. I don't know a damn thing about the Hoffman family when it comes to if they've owned anything. I mean, I'll look it up really fast, but I just want to look up the Hoffman family if they've had any other ownership stuff. Let's see. Okay, so they've owned multi-vertical Hoffman family of companies, private equity firm with over 120 global brands in sectors like real estate, media, aviation, hospitality, known for recent major acquisitions, including the Penguins and numerous Florida businesses. Okay, so they've got a diverse profile. That makes total sense. Yeah, I'm not you would know Callan way better than me from a standpoint of if you see this working out. I hope they keep Lemieux in there and they can rebuild this. Like, because I remember when they went through the rebuilding phase with Malkin and Crosby and trying to get that figured out, and they had them for what, a decade plus, where they really were playing good hockey, but now they got to rebuild again. They got to rebuild again, and they got to figure out how to get back to that prominence. I mean, look what else is going on in Pittsburgh with the Steelers, how they've had Tomlin for 17, 18 seasons, and they're trying to figure out if they're going to fire Tomlin and go a different direction, or if they're going to keep him and continue to go. I mean, he does hold an incredible streak of being 500 and being able to do what was necessary to keep the franchise, but I don't know. Like, is there a sustainability under this new ownership?
You would hope so for a team, though. Like I said, they've given you championships the last 10 years roughly, and obviously they've had that core for so long. It's more of a matter, I think, though, about ownership wanting to invest. I would probably say, and it's probably about it. But I think though there was a disconnect because I think they had a sellout streak, Nick, of 633 games that finally got snapped. Because people, I think, were getting fed up with how the team's been playing, the leadership, as I already had kind of said, though. Like I said, though, they've been kind of passed around, though, for the last several years. Like, can we get somebody here who wants to invest in this club and make them what they once were back in the, early 2000s, late 90s, early 90s, or whatnot?
Yeah, that's fair. When you see ownership transfer as much as it has, like that's
not good.
That's the biggest problem. Benchmarks makes its debut on January 4th, 9 p.m. Pacific time, midnight Eastern. It's episode 1. Callan revisits Magic Johnson's shocking HIV announcement. We did a lot of efforting. We found the audio from Magic Johnson as well. So that's going to lead off our first Benchmarks episodes, wherever you get your podcast, audio only, as we've been working on some audio only projects to kind of go old school.
Every Sunday they'll be dropping.
And we're all set through March. Pretty much with that. So plenty of content coming. We do have like another 5 or 6 that are already being done. I just finished one on Ryan Lochte.
Yes.
On going from great swimmer to reality TV show hack.
Yep.
What else do we have coming up? We have some gambling ones, ironically enough, coming up. I'm going to be doing one on the radio industry, how syndication has ruined sports talk radio in local markets.
Yep.
So make sure you tune in every Sunday starting January 4th, midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. You're going to have a lot coming up through the weekends now, from Playback Lounge to Benchmarks, all the way back into yours again with Playback Lounge.
Edition, like we got every base covered.
So 7 days a week, there's pretty much going to be
content. Gotta love it, baby.
So, all right, let's move on to press clippings. 6 quick stories. Start with ESPN and the Heisman. ESPN has signed a 6-year extension for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. This follows a record-breaking year where moving the show to ABC drew 4.3 million viewers. I don't think that's why they got the viewers this year.
I don't think so either. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say the Heisman's lost its prestige, though, but it's. I think you and Zan said it right, though. The last episode of ETB Sports, it's become too much of a talking heads thing for 3 hours and then they finally give the award out in the last minute of the show.
I think it's sponsorship sell, or ad sell. That's really
Nissan, mainly Nissan, because they sponsor the Heisman House commercial spots.
Well, and also I love how they claim that ABC is the reason why they drew the views. How about that Diego Padvia made a giant asshole out of himself?
And it went to a guy at a school who's never had a Heisman Trophy winner in Indiana.
Well, yeah, you're talking about Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
The Heisman doesn't feel important anymore. Yeah, I kind of agree with that slightly.
I would. That's why I kind of said has the Heisman lost its prestige a little bit.
I don't think I'll ever say the Heisman loses its prestige, but does it have the same value as like when Reggie Bush won it back in the day, or who else has won the Heisman off the top of my head? I can't think of.
Tebow, Bo Jackson,
Johnny Manziel.
show me the money.
By the way, did you see the other day that he was supposed to be the picker on College Game Day, and they had to pull a last-second
audible, and they brought in Alex Caruso,
which everyone laughed at, and I'm like, "Well, he went to the school. That's why
he was undrafted for the NBA."
And of course, Johnny came out and said, "Oh, I'll explain myself at a later date." That's never good.
No,
that's never good. But it's all because Diego Padvia made an ass out of himself. That's why they got views. It's not because of ABC.
Nick Fox, FS1 and FSR host Colin Cowherd made headlines by claiming that podcasts are not selling out on video, arguing that the true value, true revenue remains in audio, and that the video push is being overvalued by advertisers. Your thoughts?
We discussed this. I think he's right. He's a very smart guy when it comes to this industry. Like, he knows his stuff very well.
He's going on the Radio Hall of Fame, for heaven's sakes. I think he knows his stuff.
Well, right. But I'm saying, like, he's just an intelligent guy generally. Like, does he say some things that are a little wild or out of tune? Yeah, because he's outside the box, like you and I like to be, where you're going to say things from time to time which people don't agree with because it doesn't agree with their opinions or their morals or values. I think we've become so obsessed with video content on podcasts that we forget what we're doing as a podcast, which is an audio medium first at times. But if we don't do video, then it becomes harder for us to grow views and value for the show to have content.
Yes.
In that regard. So, but he's right, because what he's referring to, because I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, and I want to. He did a whole thing on the Netflix situation going on with all the, like, Barstool accepting the money, which apparently was in the millions, by the way, to put their video side on Netflix, meaning you can no longer watch it on YouTube at some point at the beginning of January.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hearing that WWE, which works with Fanatics for their podcast stuff, they're talking about going behind a wall on Netflix.
Great.
So he's right. Podcasts don't sell on what you see on video. It's the content. It's the spoken word, which is what podcasts are supposed to be.
Nick, NBC also announced that the upcoming Milan Cortina Winter Games will feature the return of Scott Hansen and Andrew Siciliano to Gold Zone. Three-time Olympic champion Ashley Wagner also joins, as does former ESPN Sports Center anchor Lindsay Zarniak. Your thoughts on Gold Zone being back once again for the upcoming games in Italy next February?
No brainer.
Yeah. It made watching the last Olympic Games in Paris so damn easy.
But it's only on Peacock, right?
Yes.
That's the only issue. Like, I wish they would do that on actual TV on one of the. Come on, they have enough NBC channels on the freaking airwaves. They couldn't do it on an actual channel. Come on, you don't think many people would want to just watch multiple events as it's going through? Come on.
Nick, more details have surfaced about the firing of Brian Smith, the head football coach at Ohio University. Brian Smith was fired for cause after a reviewer cited Jack Daniels in the office after victories and also inappropriate relationships with a student on campus.
What the f? I mean, really?
Bruh.
Like I thought the original situation with Sharon Moore was bad, but you're drinking on campus. Now, he's 21. No, that's not the issue. I don't think the drinking is technically the issue.
No, it's the other part of the equation.
I mean, some schools do have rules for their college, what's the word I'm looking for? Coaching staffs.
Yes.
Or maybe they don't want to encourage drinking and all that stuff, at least when they're in their training centers or whatever, doing workouts and stuff.
For sure.
The issue is the drinking with a college student and having inappropriate relations, supposedly. That's the issue of the matter.
Nick, these stories broke this morning, but the NWSL formally approved what they're calling effectively the Rodman rule, but it's actually being called the high impact player roster spot rule, where again, players could be signed for more than that contract could go beyond the salary cap. But of course, Nick, this was in wake of Tiereny Rodman and the Washington Spirit signing that deal recently. But of course, after the ruling was announced as confirmed, the NWSLPA on Tuesday said that the union said that the NWSL's decision to establish the new rule has left them with no choice but to take action to enforce the rights of the players that they represent. Your thoughts?
They're going to end up on strike at some point. This is going to be a W all over again, I think, because we can't agree to money. And by the way, I showed Callan a certain somebody that ended up connecting with me this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try and put that connection to use at some point to see if we can get a certain commissioner on our show. Imagine that. Imagine if that works out.
Nick, the last breaking story, though, is interesting. This actually has broken over the past couple days, but now
I was going to ask you about this because I saw it.
So this story is actually in hockey and not in the league I work in. This is in the league below the league I work in the East Coast Hockey League. There is now, Nick, new reports and confirmed reports that the East Coast Hockey League is going on strike effective this Friday, the day after Christmas. Partially, Elliot Freeman of Sportsnet, one of the best hockey writers out there, writes in part, ultimately, the players' concerns in the ECHL are on health and working conditions continue to be disregarded. The statement that was put out also mentioned that recently the league sent out direct communications in an attempt to bully and intimidate the players with tactics that violate U.S. labor laws and rules. Therefore, it appears that the latest development has only further widened the gap between the league and its players and possible negotiations for a new 5-year CBA. And a strike could be on the horizon. Quickly, concerns that have been raised by the players include improper fitting helmets. The league has a deal with Warrior Hockey, a major supplier of ice hockey gear. Such deals like this are not uncommon as the American Hockey League, where I work, has a deal with CCM. Outside of that, though, however, outside of not being able to select their preferred option, East Coast players say that they have been supplied with used equipment, which is simply unacceptable at such a level of pro hockey. Travel is also a major concern per the players. The East Coast Hockey League considers bus trips home as days off, where travel can be 9 hours or more. Thankfully, it appears that the league has shown willingness to now give players 1 day off each week, but though have still shown no interest in negotiating a proper holiday break. Teams will jump back into the schedule, Nick, the day after Christmas this season.
This is bad. First of all, if your helmets don't fit, that's a problem. Number one.
And per the reports, Nick, they are going on strike effective this Friday.
I mean, we're going to need that SpongeBob sound effect because we're going to be doing, we're going on a strike. We're going on a strike. We're going to need that a lot. That you know what? That's my next goal for the next show, because I feel like we're going to be talking about strikes a lot, possibly on December 29th, depending on the way this is going. But if you're not getting the proper stuff that you're fighting for as a union, then you might have to go on strike to make a point. The players control the revenue. And that's
I think that they have logical reasons to go on strike too, between the travel, which is awful in that league, as I have kind of seen my whole life when the Gulls were a team in a league similar to that in the WCHL and partially in the ECHL. So we'll keep an eye on that story, though, as we get close to the end of the week, as I know we got to get moving here so Nick can go and help out football forecast. But with that in mind, though, gang, our next show is the last one for the year. It's our year in review next Monday.
Yeah, by the way, just be forewarned, that is going to be a 4-hour show. So be aware. We're going to be doing 2 to 6, I guess, that's a Monday,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
So a rare Monday to end the year for Press Row. First year here on ETV. Second season starts. What's the date for the second season to start?
January 7th.
Yes, that's a Wednesday. Oh, right, because we're in the new year. We are doing Wednesdays 2 to 5. That way we can lock everybody in so people know when we're going to be on. So in the new year, every Wednesday, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time. That way you don't have to wait for us to TBD you in the
every
process of
single
every show.
week. Yes.
Like I said, we have 2 guests already that are, for the most part, confirmed. Bart Winkler will join us at some point. Zach Gelb will join us at some point. I'm efforting some others from from the former ISN network to join us, so we can really get a deep dive into what happened behind the scenes at Infinity Sports Network and kind of what happened at WFAN and all that stuff. Make sure you follow us on social media at Press Row ETB on Twitter and Instagram. TikTok will be following not so far behind. You will see some clips as well. You probably will see a Jason Barrett clip at some point because Callan and I took Jason Barrett to the cleaners.
We'll take him to the cleaners.
So, what a year! What a year it's been. We have a lot of branding stuff in the works for 2026. We'll talk about that on the last show on the 29th. A lot of plans we have in place. Don't miss benchmarks, January 4th, and every Sunday going forward, midnight Eastern, those shows will release. Small market edition, we have plenty of those episodes coming out as well. So a lot, or as they say for the Christmas sake, a lot of coals in the fire.
A lot of coals are in the fire.
So that'll do it. What episode number are we in? Because I totally lost track.
28, and we topped it at 40 viewers today.
So that'll do it for episode 28. Episode 29 to end the year, and then we start the new year on episode 30.
How about that? And ETB Sports starts the year on episode 300.
It's a bunch of 3s and 0s. Yeah, there we go. So that'll do it for another episode. Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. If you don't, happy holidays. Regardless, if you celebrate Hanukkah, hopefully you had a good Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or what do they say? Festivus for the rest of us.
Today is Festivus. You're right.
Oh, is it Festivus? Okay.
So for Christmas, yeah.
I was close enough. But have a happy holiday season. We will see you before the New Year's. We'll count down some of the best moments from the show. We'll have to go through and at least figure out what some of the best moments of the...
And we'll also, I think FOS put out the top 10 biggest stories of the year. We'll react to those stories too.
I love counting down the best moments of the year in media too. And like I said, we'll put a bow on 2025 and we'll talk about 2026 because there's a lot of projects in the work, including an Around the Horn style show as well that's on the way in 2026. So until then, what a day, what a week. And now I can say, what a year.
What a year.
It's been for Press Row and for the ETB network. And any last words before we say goodbye?
No, I'm ready to go eat lunch.
You're ready to go eat lunch. I have to go eat dinner before I have to go record football forecast at 5:45, not 6. So have a good day, everybody. We will see you Monday. It'll be a 4-hour show, a real, authentic radio show slot. 4 hours. So, Callan McClurg, Nick Morgasen, thank you to everybody who watched.
Yes.
We're getting way more people to watch now, the way we are currently constituted, than unfortunately when we were on playback. But that's just how the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. Have a good day, everybody. We will see you next time.
Bye-bye.